Holding tonight's meeting from the cafeteria at Dennett Road Educational Complex. The meeting will be open to the public. The public portion of this meeting we broadcast live, with the recording being made available after the meeting as well. We will come back from executive session at approximately 6 p.m. this evening. Under Section 3-305B of the General Provisions article of the Maryland Annotated Code, there is one reason the board will go into closed session this evening: to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees or employees or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, and any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. Specifically, the topic for tonight will be 3-305B1, topics including certificated staffing recommendations and superintendent evaluation. The reason these topics will be discussed in closed session instead of open session is as follows. The personnel topics pursuant to 3-305B1 disclosed above will be considered in closed session rather than open session because they include a discussion of specific employees, which is a confidential employment matter. That being said, are there any objections to going into executive session? Hearing none, is there a motion to do so? Motion by Monica, second by Jason. All those in favor of going into executive session signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. And we are in executive session. I'd like to welcome everyone to our September 19th Board of Education meeting. To start off our meeting, I would like for each of you to stand. We'll ask our student member to lead us in a Pledge of Allegiance, preceded by a moment of silence. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First order of business is the approval of the agenda, so I'll take a motion as such. Motion by Rodney.
Second.
Second by Matthew. All those in favor of the agenda as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And the agenda is approved. I'll take a motion for the approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
So moved by Jason, seconded by Matthew. Those in favor of the consent agenda signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. And it is unanimous. The approval of the August 9th, 2022 public session minutes. Are there any additions, corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, take a motion as such.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Matthew.
Second.
Seconded by Jason. Those in favor of the August 9th, 2022 public session minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And those are approved. Approval of the August 23rd, 2022 public feedback session notes. Any corrections or additions to those notes? Hearing none, take a motion as such. Motion by Rodney, second by Monica. Those in favor of adopting the approval of the public session minutes from August 23rd, 2022, signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. And those are also approved. And Madam Superintendent, will you do the closed session summaries and announcements?
Yes, thank you. The Board of Education met in executive session on Tuesday, August 9th, 2022 at 4:02 p.m. under Authority 3-305 of the General Provisions article of the Annotated Code of Maryland to discuss the following items: review of executive session minutes, personnel topics pursuant to 3-305B1, and administrative function topics. Jason Vansickle made a motion to go into executive session, and Rodney Glotfelty seconded the motion. Final resolution, motion carried. Yea votes from Rodney Glotfelty, Matthew Paul, Monica Rinker, and Jason Vansickle. The topics discussed in the closed session included the following: executive session minutes, July 12th, 2022. Matthew Paul made a motion to approve the July 12th, 2022 executive session minutes, and Jason Vansickle seconded the motion. Final resolution, motion carried. Yea votes from Rodney Glotfelty, Matthew Paul, Monica Rinker, and Jason Vansickle. July 25th, 2022, Monica Rinker made a motion to approve the July 5th, 2022 executive session minutes, and Jason Vansickle seconded the motion. Final resolution, motion carried with yea votes from Rodney Glotfelty, Matthew Paul, Monica Rinker, and Jason Vansickle. Personnel, certificated staffing recommendations. Dr. Jane Wildeson, Director of Human Resources, shared the certificated staff recommendations with the board for their review. Dr. Wildeson answered various questions regarding the candidates. The board took action on the staffing recommendations in the public session under the consent agenda. Tenured staff recommendations. Dr. Wildeson shared tenured staff recommendations with the board. The board took action on the tenured staff recommendations in the public session under the consent agenda. The board discussed various administrative function topics. The board considered these topics but did not take any action on these items. Adjournment, Jason Van Sickle made a motion to adjourn the executive session, and Matthew Paw seconded the motion. Motion carried with yea votes from Monica Rinker, Rodney Glotfelty, Matthew Paw, and Jason Van Sickle. The executive session ended at 5:25 p.m. Mr. Tom Woods, Board President, Mr. Rodney Glotfelty, Board Vice President, and Board members Dr. Matthew Paw, Mrs. Monica Rinker, and Mr. Jason Van Sickle attended the meeting. Mrs. Barbara Baker, Superintendent, Mr. Brennan Hoover, Board Attorney, Dr. Jane Wildeson, Director of Finance, Mrs. Karen Brewer, Executive Assistant to the Superintendent, attended all or part of the meeting. Announcements? All right, September 21st, this coming Wednesday, will be staff development, 3-hour early dismissal. September 29th, we will have a special board meeting for the FY22 audit review in the boardroom at the central office at 5 p.m. September 30th is the state deadline for the FY 2023 enrollment count. October 6th is progress reports for the first quarter, and October 6th through 8th is the May annual conference at the Westin in Annapolis. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wazlowski will present our EEBAA Vehicle Use Policy and Procedure. This is an action item tonight.
Vehicle use procedure and policy for Garrett County Public Schools.
Questions for Mr. Wazlowski? We had this last month, and we've had 30 days to review it. Any questions about the policy or procedure? Hearing none, I'll take a motion. Yes.
You answered my questions last month, but I just had one more question that I thought of. I know we have, how many of our schooling vehicles do we have to transport students that can be used, like if they have to go on a competition or different?
We have 2 Durangos and a Suburban.
And does that seem to be enough for our needs?
Yes, right now, yes.
Okay, that was the only question I had.
Take a motion to adopt the EEBAA Vehicle Use Policy and Procedure.
I make a motion to adopt the policy.
Motion by Matthew to adopt.
Second.
Second by Rodney. Since there are no other questions, those in favor of the policy and procedure as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And the policy procedure is adopted. Mr. Wazlowski will stay with us for the Educational Facilities Master Plan. It's also an action item.
I'm here to also request approval for the 2022 Educational Facilities Master Plan.
Is there a motion to adopt so we can have discussion about it?
Make a motion.
Motion by Matthew to adopt. Is there a second? Second by Jason. Now we can have discussion. Any discussions about the Facilities Master Plan? Yes, Monica.
Asked most of them when we had this for our last year, and many of the changes that was documented were changed. But when you look at, I believe this is the new one, page 7, under Fast Facts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 6th item down, it says only one school was projected to be operating within their state rated capacity in fall 2022. So that would be now, correct?
Yes.
And I believe we have some that are over or close more than one. It says only one from the enrollment numbers that we got, I do believe. And I believe Crowland too is for their state rated capacity for enrollment numbers we got. So is this going, it says,
This is projected for the fall. We'll have those numbers in 2 weeks.
right,
Yeah.
okay.
The time of the projection, I don't know if we were thinking that I don't know Cronin's numbers sitting here, like where they are as of today.
Okay, well, with it, the way it says, it makes it, just because I'm thinking this is fall 2022, And we haven't submitted it, correct, yet? So
Here, you're going to have that really close so that the people in the audience can hear.
Sorry about that. At the time that it was being projected, it wasn't going to be at capacity based on the enrollment.
okay.
But that would change if the enrollment count in 2 weeks, we would adjust that statement.
Okay, so the key word is projected then. It's not giving the accurate,
Keyword is projected, yes.
okay, thanks.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second to adopt the Educational Facilities Master Plan. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And it is unanimous. Yeah. Let me get down here. There it is. Is David and them going to present? They're going to be the presenters. Okay. You want me to go ahead and have them come up so if there are any questions from the board? Mr. Wolf, you want to come up in case we have questions? We're moving on to the Educational Specifications Feasibility Study for Southern Middle and Southern Garrett High School. This is an update. Each of us have very impressive packets. Thank you very much. Very, very, very well done. But we will entertain any questions that anyone may have on the board with the updated packet. Go ahead, Ms. Rinker.
So are our questions coming from the one that says draft or our other one? This one?
Sorry, one schematic design and one is the expect.
Some of them are very similar, the things, but some have some different things. What would you prefer?
So teal is the ed spec, the green is the schematic design.
Which one would you prefer?
Either one.
Okay,
They kind of go together.
they do, you're right. So I guess I'll go by the one that says draft, which is our ed specs.
You're going to give me both of them.
Okay, we'll look at page 25. It says added value. So I guess my question is, maybe this is more for Ms. Baker. We have things, added value to me makes me think, are those things that are new that we've never had before? Is that how you would consider them added value? Under elementary, well, the Judy Space Center for Early Childhood incentives to support kindergarten readiness. So that would be an added value because it's something that would be placed in the pre-K through 6 at Broadford, correct? Sure.
So we have 3 Judy centers right now, and one of them is located at the Overlook. And so having them be in a school, we have found to be very advantageous. So with the new design, this would allow for them to be in our elementary school, which is what we're trying to do with our partnership with Head Start, Judy Center, and our early childhood programs.
Okay.
It's not really new though, because
not new.
years ago, we did have that as our model.
It's return to,
Right,
yeah.
exactly. So to answer your original question, wouldn't really be considered new.
So is this would be an additional space that they occupy? Will they keep their other offices? I'm just trying, because I look at it too for the Head Start collaboration 3-year-old programs. So will that mean that Head Start will vacate one of their current facilities, or will this just be an addition to space they occupy?
Well, that depends on a number of other factors, including the future of this building and the central office. They may need to vacate. They may not. They also may have space at the overlook that they could possibly use, or at one of their other Head Start. So I'm not sure that I can accurately answer that very well, other than to say that.
The only thing I
It's
would
a
add to
possibility.
that, and I agree 100%, the only thing I would add is that our 3-year-old programs with Head Start, our goal is to make them collaborative programs where we jointly offer a high-quality early childhood program for our students. So these classrooms will align with the blueprint, and Head Start and early childhood, Ms. Ashby, are working very closely together to make sure that we have a collaborative process for that.
Okay, thanks. Some of my things are just kind of basic. Some is just to more explain it to me so I understand it. We have in there under elementary, Junior National Honor Society. I believe now our National Honor Society is only in high school, and it's for juniors and seniors. So I'm just curious how we would have an elementary, a National Honor Society. What does, I'm just,
It was just one of our brainstorming ideas of things that we would like to explore, that this grade band would allow us an opportunity to do so.
okay. So to get to, I guess, my point, so some of these added value, we have that. We have student council and leadership opportunities for 5th graders. So I guess it might be more opportunities you're offering our students, but doesn't necessarily mean that they will take up an additional classroom or that we have to employ additional staff to provide these services.
That is correct. And in the presentation a little bit later, you will see similar ideas and thoughts of added value that we could possibly include. But they could require changing some staff duties and maybe some shared spaces. But right now, it's nothing added as far as an extra classroom or extra staff member that would be necessary right now.
Okay. And on that last one, elementary, it says increase stability in class size. Just to make sure I understand what it means, to me that would be the class size would be more uniform. But
Correct.
this pre-K through 6th grade is basically taking Broadford students and moving them to the Southern Middle, which will be the new elementary school, correct? So I just don't understand how the class size, like if you have so many 1st grade, 2nd grades, you just,
Right, and you're correct that that is that is one thing that we'd like to be able to do. But you're right, if we're right now for the purposes of tonight's discussion, it would be just taking the current enrollment that is at Broadford and moving them to the new Broadford. So the class sizes wouldn't have much impact at that time. It would give us probably a little bit more flexibility with space, but not necessarily to make them all exactly even.
okay. I see we have under secondary, add an additional foreign language, which I believe many years ago we did have an additional foreign language at the high school, and then it was eliminated for funding or not having staff. So this is something that I see would be to bring back. So then if that would happen, then that would be hiring another staff probably.
That would likely, depending on the need and the interest, yes, of course, if we added German, we would need somebody that, spoke German or French or another Chinese. I mean, there's a number of languages that we could possibly explore, but yes, that would, unless we had somebody that could speak Spanish in addition to another language. Otherwise, yes, we would need at least one more staff member.
Okay, one more on that page. Under secondary, opportunity for 8th graders to earn high school credit, technology education, physical education, fine arts, including dance and foreign language. So would they get like double their credit? Because I know like when you're in 8th grade, I believe you do have gym, you do have something, technology, education. So would you,
Currently at the middle school level, those aren't counted for credit, for actual credits towards graduation or other credit opportunities. So yes, what we're hoping to be able to add that would give us some more flexibility would be to I don't know that we would be able to do all of those things, but those things be able to offer credit, high school credit towards graduation in some of those subject areas.
Okay.
Maybe not all of them, but in some, it's possible that we might be able to add that.
So currently, like, they would be taking a couple of those in 8th grade, but not getting high school credit. But if
Correct.
the 8th grade is in the high school, you're saying they would be an 8th grader doing it, but it would count toward their high school graduation
Right,
credit, correct?
Right. That would require some, right now, we would have to make some changes to the educational course guides to make those credit courses. But those, again, those are some ideas and some thoughts that we had that would make this a great benefit for 7th and 8th graders, particularly 8th, but for both.
Would we have to get approval from the state, or we
Not
just
so
do
much
a
state,
local?
the local board
Yeah, okay,
would need to do that.
okay. Okay, when you turn to page 26, under special education, it talks about classrooms are co-located with support suite with additional inclusion rooms dispersed in academic areas. Instructional support has direct access to special education spaces. So my question is, for the space that they are provided now, I believe at Yockleys Elementary, will this space be comparable to what they have, or will it be additional space?
That's a question for me this time.
That's, I'd say probably.
I can't really speak to what Yockleys has, don't really know. But what we've based the design around is what we've heard from the special ed group, like Dr. Mangus, for instance. So all of these spaces were things that were needed for this facility to function properly.
Right. I would say if not comparable, enhanced.
Yeah.
Fair?
Thank you.
Okay. And I believe you talked about this last month when you had all of your slides and up there. But for anybody that wasn't listening before, under enrichment spaces, also on page 26, gymnasium added stage. So if I believe I'm accurate, the stage will be taken out of the cafeteria at Southern Middle, correct? To have more room for eating, or just space in the cafeteria, no?
Yeah, no, that space is reallocated so the health suite
Okay.
has a front kind of door entrance, so that gives students more access to the outside from the health suite, which encourages discretion. And if somebody
Right.
has COVID, they have a direct access outside.
Okay. So the new stage will then be in the gymnasium.
That's correct.
Would that be in the big gym or the auxiliary gym? I can't remember.
The main gym.
Okay.
So you have additional seating capacity. There's a number of reasons that we show in that booklet on why to
Yeah.
do that.
Okay. I think that was a question talking about seating. How many did you anticipate that it would seat at the stage area in the gymnasium? More than what we probably can get in the cafeteria now?
It's absolutely more. It's more square footage. I want to say a couple, maybe 1,000, 1,500 square feet more. So I have to do the math to
Okay.
figure out the seating capacity, but that will come.
Okay. And on that page, we have Southern 7 through 12 educational opportunities. The first bullet, the last sentence, an assistant principal office for added supervision for our grade 7 level. So I guess my question is, would that be like, would our middle school principal or assistant principal maybe be in that position? The assistant principal? I guess what I'm trying to say is, we already have a principal, an assistant principal at the high school level. So they would probably be over I don't know if it'd be the 8th through the 12th or the 9th through 12th. So you have a dedicated area at the 7th grade wing.
Yes.
So that would probably be someone from the middle school.
Right. Right now, and again, this is a very tentative plan, we have a principal and assistant principal at Bradford, principal, assistant principal at Southern Middle, principal, assistant principal at Southern Garrett. So we are not decreasing any of the students in those three schools. So my recommendation would be to keep the same number of administrators, but we would disperse them. They may not all be right in the main office.
Right.
And as far as which assistant principal or which principal, we haven't worked out those details, but my recommendation would be to keep all of the administrators for the reasons that I just said. So if we did have an administrative office in the wing that they have allotted in the 7th grade or the 8th grade, I think that would be very beneficial to the administrative process and to the students to have an administrator close by.
Okay. on page 27, under Southern Pre-K to 6 opportunities. The third bullet on that, distributed administration spaces are proximate to student activity and provide passive supervision. What do you mean, distribute administration spaces? Is that like for the staff, the teachers? Is that what that
That's correct. We usually call that decentralized admin, so it's going to be like office spaces or teacher planning areas, spaces where administration will be, located and be able to supervise students kind of sprinkled throughout the plan.
Okay. Okay, under your Southern 7 through 12 opportunities, it says the nurses suite relocated, renovated, and expanded to serve an increase in student capacity. So it says nurses. So will we have possibly more than one nurse for the 7th through 12th grade?
I see this very similar to administrators. We
Okay.
have the same number of students. I think it would behoove us to ensure that we had same
Well, 'cause it's-
comparable nursing services as well.
In addition to that, I think the current nurse's office is so small it can fit maybe one bed.
yeah.
The positioning of it gives it more space. It'll fit more than multiple beds, so you're gaining a lot there.
Okay. Okay, on page 31, this might be one for Rich. Under new requirements, Southern Pre-K through 6 school. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 7th bullet down, reconfigured bus stacking. Minimizes space required and offers flexibility of drop off and picking up staging. Okay, my question is, when you stack, I think your picture had them like at an angle, correct? So does that mean once the students are loaded, the bus will have to back up a little bit? Or you can go,
Yeah, they stay back far enough that
Okay.
they can just turn and go haul each other out.
Cut right out. Yep.
okay. So when they're stacked like that, you said there's room, which I'm glad to hear that they don't have to back up. They go, is there a space behind them that if an emergency vehicle or something would have to come through, could still drive behind them while they were, okay?
So essentially what you have now is the loop, right? And the
Yeah.
buses parallel park on that loop. What we're adding is the additional parking, so that loop continues and stays consistent. The additional parking, the buses will be completely out of the way.
Okay. On page 32, we have pre-K through 6th. The fifth bullet down, it says the stage at the gymnasium is considered a county-wide resource, which we were just talking about, the gymnasium being, the stage being at the gymnasium. So before, have we had anybody really use our stages for any different events in the past?
I would say that we have had people, I don't know specifically, but I do know a lot of those spaces when we have partners after school, we have a lot of our collaborative work with some of our partners, the health department, they will often use some of those stage spaces and those kinds of things.
Okay. On the same page, 32, Southern 7 through 12, the fifth bullet down. Performing arts, media, and physical education spaces that can be shared between the middle and high schools should be located outside the classroom clusters. So, I guess my question is, when I think of, this was another question further down too. When we put 7th and 8th in the high school, so I guess we might need, depending on the amount of students, our staff might need to move with them too for the gym, art,
Correct.
the different things.
Right. We right now, until we gain efficiencies and really see, we have the same number of students. So I would anticipate, the same number of teachers. How those are distributed is, will need to be decided. That's not decided yet, but no teachers are going to lose their job or any of those things, due to this consolidation. They might change based on their certification and need.
I guess what I look at is kind of confusing. When I think of middle school, it's 6th, 7th, and 8th. And I do believe that sometimes, say your specialty, you're a science teacher, you might teach 6th and 8th grade science, correct, the way it is now. So by us putting 6th grade at elementary, according to this plan, and if 7th and 8th goes to the high school, I guess my concern is that you probably already figured out what you would do with your 6th grade teachers. Like, some of them might, like you said, I guess they might have to do something different, or a 6th grade teacher might have to teach more than one course, correct?
Correct. It would depend on their certification, but generally, the way certification is usually kindergarten through 6 or kindergarten through 7, depending. Then, if they have an early childhood endorsement, and then 7 through 12 is a more specialized. They're certified in physics or they're certified in mathematics. So yes, depending on their certification, it may change a little bit, but we would. Most of the 6th grade teachers are certified in elementary. Some are certified in both.
So you would almost look at 6th grade like a 5th grade, in a
Pardon me?
way. You would almost look at 6th grade as a 5th grade, like the student might have the same teacher for more than one subject, possibly.
Possibly if we did some looping or if we did some departmentalization, we could have that. But again, that will depend on the teachers at the time, where their certifications and our need.
Our grade band committee was looking specifically at that as well. So we will obviously
Right.
reconvene that group. We obviously met several times in the spring last year as we were planning this in the preliminary stages. Should this be approved, we're obviously going to have to reconvene that group. But that group was instrumental in discussing a lot of the questions that you're asking in regards to staffing and the instructional model. Will it look like for 6th grade? What will it look like for 7th and 8th grade? That's the group that will administratively get together and work. And we have teachers on that committee, administrators on that committee, but we'll definitely need to move forward with additional work in that area.
Okay, thank you. When you look at page 37, administrative suite, and you have listed on here all of the different, I guess the number, does that mean like the number of rooms, right? And then the square foot is what
That's
the room
correct.
size is, correct?
Yes.
So I guess when you look at all those, is pretty much all that is stuff that we have now? Maybe the rooms have gotten larger or in a different location? Is any of those new?
Yeah, you currently do not have a security vestibule. I will tell you that a lot of these rooms are going to be based on the state, like the state requirements for an administrative suite. So some of them will be new in addition to what you currently have. But for instance, your guidance suite is far too small currently. So that will be an increase. 2 microphones.
Administrative assistants right now are both in the main office. So the division here is to have one behind the door. Maybe the one that's doing the finance has their own office kind of behind that.
Okay. So make it more flowing smoothly is what the ultimate goal is. Okay, when you look at page 39, guidance suite, that you're just talking about, it says, the third one down, counselor office. So I guess it shows 3, there will be 3 rooms. Is that correct?
Yes.
And currently, this is more than what we have.
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other questions as I'm asking? Alexis, if you have anything, feel free to ask. Okay, this is something new. Page 41. You have teaching and learning under casework and millwork. It says each classroom space will be provided the following. It says a 3 LF sink base cabinet. So does that mean each classroom will have like a little sink with water running in it, like to wash your hands, or?
That is correct for grades. I want to say it's 1 through 3. Am I wrong about that? I'm sorry, PK through 3.
Okay, so the younger grades.
Yes.
Okay.
And that LF stands for linear feet.
Okay. And then you have, like it says underneath that, the linear feet tall cabinet, 2 linear feet wardrobe, 8 linear feet low mobile book shelving. So would that be comparable to what a teacher might have now, or would this be more?
This is more. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you this one back.
So in the elementary too, there was a lot of pages to read. Thank you. You did do a lot of information here. That's why I've really
Yeah.
looked at it.
It is a lot of content.
That's okay. It gives more explanation. So in each classroom, the pre-K through 6, for their coats, say backpack, whatever they bring to school, will they have a locker? Is that what the wardrobe is for? Is that to put the student to put their coat in their classroom, or will it be in the hallway? What was we going to do for that?
It's currently up for discussion whether lockers will be included.
Right.
Can you hear me in this? Okay. Yeah. All right. Whether the lockers will be removed from the school or not, to promote more glass, more windows, more daylighting, that kind of thing. But each classroom will have a cubby space, which is like separated. They're partitioned out, so that, it's needed for like things like head lice, God forbid. But yeah, they will be partitioned, so each student has a place to put their backpack, but not necessarily a locker.
Okay.
The wardrobe is going to be for the teacher to store her things, his or her things. Sorry.
Okay. So it looks like that there is space in the classrooms like you said, where the students could put their, especially the younger grades. Okay.
I mean, there are also furnishing solutions you can do. There's things where, like trays underneath the chairs where you can take a backpack and stick it underneath there, so that's where they store their stuff throughout the day. So we're trying to keep it as flexible as possible is our goal.
Okay. Okay, this one's on page 42. And again, it would be on the pre-K through 6th. It's pretty explainable. You have in here 2 Head Start classrooms. And then this one, I guess one more question. It says Head Start / pre-kindergarten 4 rooms. So I know this year we have some 3-year-olds that are in with our pre-K, correct? Or no, 3-year-old separate classroom, correct? So it says Head Start / pre-K. Would that be 3-year-olds with 4-year-olds, or what?
The Head Start / pre-K is signifying a collaborative classroom where we partner with Garrett Community Action and have a joint classroom. So the students in those classrooms are both Garrett County Public School students as well as Head Start students, the ones that are eligible for Head Start, I should say.
Okay.
And they could be either 3 or 4-year-old classrooms if they're a collaborative classroom. Our current 3-year-old classrooms, the 2 that we have, are collaborative classrooms. And we have a small number of 4-year-old classrooms that are collaborative, and we're looking to expand that.
Okay. So I guess then I look at it from the funding standpoint. If the collaboration is with Head Start, with Community Action, with the school system. So when you look at our state rated capacity, the Head Start classroom of 2 and the Head Start / pre-kindergarten of 4, is that quoted into our state rated capacity? Like when we would get funding for different things, I look to see the number of students enrolled, what your capacity is. Is
Yes.
that considered those rooms?
It is, yes.
Even the Head Start classroom?
Yes.
But Head Start isn't funded through the school system. I'm just trying to understand.
No, but
how.
but if we do a collaborative classroom, depending on, it will be dependent upon the students that
Right.
are enrolled. We can count them, and then there are certain students that Head Start can count, same student.
Okay.
So when you're looking at a collaborative classroom, that will ultimately benefit GCPS and benefit Head Start.
Okay, but the Head Start classroom that you probably won't benefit us, correct? I mean, there's ways they can benefit, but when you're looking at the state
Other
rated
than
capacity,
working on readiness and having, preparedness, it will definitely benefit us.
that way, but not from
Yes.
the maybe support you're getting shown your state rate capacity.
Right, well, right, I mean, technically.
Right, there
yes.
is benefits. You're right, but
There-
from what we hear when we look at projects, when they say schools underutilized, they look at state rate capacity. So that wouldn't
It's also possible as we move forward that those could become collaborative classrooms as well. You know, certainly things are going to evolve, and I know Head Start is very much on board with being a partner with us for collaborative classrooms for 3 and 4-year-olds. So right now they're slotted as Head Start classrooms, but as we move through the process, they could become collaborative as well. So we wouldn't leave the options open to be able to have that partnership and get the most value possible from it.
Okay. Under our spatial requirements, it says Head Start / pre-kindergarten / kindergarten. The last sentence, furniture and equipment should be provided to support 2 staff and 20 students. So 2 staff, does that mean like the teacher and the teacher's, I guess you'd say aide? Is that what that means?
Teacher's assistant, yes.
Teacher assistant.
Right. In the early childhood classrooms, such as pre-K, the recommendation is 1 adult to 10 children. So each classroom would be provided. That's the goal of 2 staff members for each 20 students. So then we would be meeting the program requirements.
Okay. When you look at general classroom, the first sentence, each teaching area should be capable of accommodating 1 teacher and 28 students. In that same paragraph, the last sentence, furniture and equipment should be provided to support 2 staff and 20 students. So I guess my question is, what would you order? Would you only order
We missed that.
the furniture for 20 students per classroom, even though the class will hold 28?
Yeah, it appears that that last sentence is inaccurate. So you should be 1 teacher, 28 students.
Okay, so I'll just scratch that off then? That's not,
We will revise that. Thank you for catching it.
okay.
We missed that.
In the top that I forgot to ask, when it says like you have a Head Start has a toilet room, correct?
Yes.
So like a toilet room, can you define, is it like a room with 1 toilet or more than 1 toilet?
Single
1
user
toilet. Okay. So Head Start classroom, Head Start pre-kindergarten, pre-K and kindergarten will each have 1 toilet to be used by those children. Is that in the
That's
actual
correct.
classroom?
It is
or?
in the classroom.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. When you look at page 43, the sciences, it says shared space STEM lab. So we're still talking the pre-K through 6th grade, correct? So will the younger kids go to the STEM lab too, or is that more for the older students? Do you know? STEM lab?
I'm sorry, I was reading.
That's okay, sorry.
That's okay.
On page 43,
Gotcha.
you have it says sciences, and then you have shared spaces, and it shows that we have 1, which represents 1 STEM lab. So my question was, is that, will the younger students be going to the STEM lab, or is it more for older, or?
Well, that will really be an operational thing, but frankly, the space is going to be designed to be flexible enough to accommodate the needs of every student, if it can be. you know,
Okay.
So,
Yeah. I would think for age-appropriate activities,
Right.
the older students, 3rd through 6th, would probably use it more frequently than the younger children, but it would certainly be available, and that's another added value for the younger children, that they would certainly, you know, and as we've talked about many times, our goal really was to be as flexible with spaces as we could be. So I think it could be used by all students, just different activities and different frequency.
You could imagine a large Lego table or something that might be good for younger students. that
So
kind
a
of thing.
variety of things can be in there, okay. When I questioned about the general classroom, page 42, you said it would be 1 teacher, 28 students. So when I look at page 43, under our science classroom, it says 2 staff and 20 students. Is that accurate, or should it be the 28?
Yeah, I'm going to have to get back to you on that one too. I think that might be the same situation as page 42. So I'm not
Okay.
sure. I have to get with Laura to answer that question more thoroughly.
Or
Okay.
we could have a divider, potentially.
Something.
Yeah, we'll have to see what she was thinking.
Okay,
on that.
because then on the STEM lab, it says 2 staff and 25 students on the paragraph right under it.
Check on what,
It's right in the middle of page
yeah,
43.
to get with Laura to see what programmatically she was thinking there.
It's a little stem on it.
When you look at page 44, it says STARS. STARS support system. It has a number 6 in parentheses, and then under the number it has 1. So 1 classroom. What does the 6 mean? Does that mean you can have 6 students in there at one time, or?
Yes.
Okay. So my next question is
Well,
one
that's a support
No.
space. There's 2 classrooms.
support? Okay.
Based on
Underneath
how
of
I'm
it,
reading,
okay.
How I'm reading this.
That's correct.
So it's okay. So that would be for the staff.
Correct, and I believe they have
6. Okay, and then the
total
2
staff
classroom and dirt. Okay.
to be accommodated in that space.
That sounds right.
Okay. Do we currently have 2 classrooms at Broadford for STARS? I'm just curious if we've increased our capacity or the square foot, or if we're keeping it the same.
We currently have 2.
Okay. So it's the same.
There's 2 spaces at Broadford
Okay.
for stars right now.
Okay, on our related arts, page 46. We have a visual arts classroom, 1, and a makerspace/art classroom. So basically we have, what, 2 art rooms? Is that correct? I mean, you do different things in each one, but,
Again, that makerspace will be flexible enough to accommodate different activities such as art. So it's going to be multi-use, multifunctional. More flexibility, the better.
okay. And then the same thing for our music. You have, it looks like, 2 rooms too, correct? Instrumental and vocal music, and then a music and movement. So there could be 2 different music things going on at the same time.
You got it. Yep.
But, like, just like the art, 2 different things at the same time.
And those spaces are located centrally in the building so that, all the students get the benefit from that exposure and from their use.
Okay. Now, will Head Start use the art and music? Or, because currently they,
Generally, I believe they do that within the classroom currently.
okay,
I think it
okay.
would depend on the need for the space and if they were available, but pretty much they do those activities throughout the day in the classroom, in their own
like they
classroom.
currently do?
Yes.
I just wasn't sure if there were any changes. The kiln room, you have it. So I guess would there be shelves in there, like for projects after you take them out, or
Well,
to be,
The kiln room will be used for pottery.
yeah,
And that kind. So there will be shelving. There will be within the kiln itself. It will have its own storage area for overnight cooking, whatever they want to do. But yes, there will be shelving for those activities.
okay. And on page 47, under instrumental and vocal music, the 3rd paragraph down, the last sentence, I see it on there again. It says music chairs and equipment should be provided to support 2 staff, 20 students.
This is probably another question for my associate.
Well, I was just curious if we have different numbers.
Yeah, no, we will double check all of these and
Okay.
get back with you.
On page 48, our media center, it says collection and stacks. The first sentence, to the greatest extent possible, shelving should be provided to accommodate collection. So I guess we still will have books that the kids can actually check out, not just like you can look on your devices, but you'll have hard and paper copies, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then you had in the other one, there'll be different kind of seating for the kids to sit on in there. I remember reading all about that,
Yes.
the spaces for them. Okay, you get a physical education. Page 49, I thought of this. Currently, there's Southern Middle and Broadford. Do community members both use the gyms at both schools now for events, evenings, and weekends or practices, correct?
Correct.
So I guess that's the concern with this. When there'll no longer be an actual Broadford school, you're losing a gym. You'll have the Southern Middle Gym, you have the main gym, and then you'll have the auxiliary gym. So will that be two different gyms that could be, the community could use?
Correct. So we heard the community's concern loud and clear on that topic, and as part of the addition at the Broadford, new Broadford Elementary School, we would be expanding the auxiliary gym to be roughly the same size as Broadford's current gym. So
Okay.
you will still have 2 functioning spaces.
Okay. And then with that, you have additional parking, I've seen.
That's correct.
Yeah. It actually has a number in the other book. Okay, you talked on your presentation, I remember, about the outdoor toilets. That would be, if you use the gym, you could access the toilets from the outside of the building, but right there along the gym. One here on page 49 says outdoor toilet rooms. It says number 0. So why does it say 0? Is that something that was like an additional thing to do in time, or was that to be with this project?
No, that area is actually captured in the community use space that we're allocating for the Judy Center community use spaces. So it's all included in that 3,000 square feet. That's why she has it zeroed out with no area, but it's there.
Okay. Okay.
It's kind of a
Okay. Because I remember we had talked about it. I'm trying to go quick. I had a lot of things highlighted. Okay, it says performance platform on page 50, the first sentence. The performance platform is meant to sponsor student theater productions. And this is, again, I guess, what, pre-K through 6 we're still talking about, correct?
Correct.
Because currently, in the past, we've had, I believe, 8th graders do a play or something. So I guess then the whole school could benefit from the performance platform, correct?
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Performance and is that our stage, a performance platform? Is that what that is?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Don't really want to call it a stage. It's code implications. So.
Okay. Food and nutrition. The first sentence. The dining area should be easily accessible to the students and community for after-hours use. It may be designed in a non-traditional shape so that there are nooks within the larger space. Okay, so what do you mean a non-traditional shape? Maybe.
It can accommodate different seating needs, so it might have ins and outs or spaces for booth seating, soft seating, different kinds of seating arrangements. So currently, can't really explain it here, but it's just a bench, with right.
Okay.
And a lot of times too, we find that if you use a round table, for instance, it cuts down on the noise because you don't have kids screaming at each other from across the table. Mm-hmm. So. I think that what that means is just having different seating arrangements. Okay,
because when I read it, designed in non-traditional shape, I thought it meant like the cafeteria is still going to be like a square rectangle, correct?
Correct. We are not really changing the
Okay.
shape of that space because it's fiscally responsible to not do so. So it's going to stay the same shape.
Okay, so this is basically how the table and chairs will be set up, or the
So
style.
It's a furnishing thing, yes.
Okay. And you have under dining area, second sentence, the dining area, which I'm thinking is a cafeteria, correct?
Correct.
Should be sufficient size to accommodate up to 1/3 of student population at a time. So will we have to add a lunch shift, or will we? Because do we have 3 lunch shifts right now, or is there 4? 3, right? Correct at Broadford. 3. Okay.
Fairly certain it's 3. So that would be 1/3 of the student population, so you can still have 3 shifts.
Okay. Under food preparation area, page 51. A food prep area that can be adequately served not only the current school population, but the larger scale preparation of food of other schools in the district. So currently, does Broadford make food for other schools and they're satellited out? Because we have some here at Dennett Road, right, that's satellited. No, Broadford does not right now. So does that mean our kitchen will be bigger? The large-scale preparation of food of other, well, just, is it a possibility then?
We are not adding area to the kitchen.
Okay.
The goal for this project would be to replace in kind the equipment that is outdated and antiquated at this point. We are adding a small addition for the storage of the food and all of the storage that's are in the outbuildings for staff to be able to easily access those things without going outside and harsh
I've seen
weather.
that. That's good. I did not see on here unless I overlooked it. Will there be a washer and dryer in the kitchen?
There'll be a washer and dryer.
In the kitchen?
Yes.
Okay. I just didn't. Our community area, it says, is our basically the Judy Center. The role of the Judy Center is to meet the needs of early learners age birth through kindergarten. And I know they're like used to say a learning partner. So basically they'll just have this space in the building, correct, to do the things that they normally do. Is that how you...
They would do their programming in that space. So things like play groups that happen on a regular basis, or they're meeting with families to develop a plan to help the family reach a particular educational goal. That would happen in this space. It would be used for a variety of things, but that would be their space to use for community engagement and bringing 0 to 5 into the school who are not already in the school. And they also could use it for serving the 3, 4, and 5-year-olds that are in the school as well.
Right. We've actually, with the addition that we put on Grantsville a number of years ago for those collaborative rooms, that's basically the model. And it works very, very well.
When you look at building services, page 53, building services, grounds and maintenance areas, it says outside storage 1. So is that currently what we have for like maybe the lawnmower and stuff? Is that what that means? Outside storage?
Yes.
Okay. So what move its location?
Yes, the plan is to move that's existing there
Okay.
as part of the site plan.
Okay. Okay. Now look at page 63. This has your details on your teaching and learning space. Okay, you have your Head Start Classroom 2, Head Start Pre-K 4, which I said earlier. But it says pre-kindergarten, which is pre-K, it says 0. So does that mean because Head Start and Pre-K are together?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, when you look at, you have kindergarten, it says space quantity 4, which would be 1,000 square foot. That must be 1,000 square foot per classroom, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So you look at grade 1, it says we have 4 classrooms, 800 square foot. So I guess you need, according to, say, Comar, a little bit less square foot for first grade to 6th grade versus kindergarten.
Correct.
Okay. So when I looked at the classes that we have now, I have so many papers here. So this happens in 2 years. So our students that are currently in pre-K would be the first grade numbers we look at here. Is that correct? If you up it 2 years?
No, you have to count the construction years too.
Yeah, but that would be misleading because not every single pre-K student comes to Broadford or any of our schools. So
Right. But you add 2 years. So like, then the first grader would be our 3rd grade. If you go by 2 years? Okay, so I looked at the numbers we have, and I understand that our current pre-K, not all students might not go to pre-K, some might be stay at home, go to Head Start, different things.
It's gonna be 4 years. So it's pre-K, it'd be this year, and then next year is the design.
Okay,
And we have 2 years of construction. So if you're looking at a pre-K student, then they'd be entering 4th grade. Pre-K, yeah,
okay, so the numbers, I moved them
Third
up
grade.
2, I'd move them up 4 years.
3rd grade, yeah. Yep, 4 years.
Yeah,
Yep, 4 years.
so the pre-K number should be, what's for grade 4? Grade 3.
Yeah.
Okay. I think what I did is I looked at the numbers from Broadford now. So like I wrote them here if you're looking. So our pre-K you're saying would be grade 3, correct? So I had said 99 kids. So if you divide them 4 classes, it'd be 24 kids per class. If you have the next grade with 75, you divide by 4, there'd be 18 per class. The 1 year is 85, it'd be 21 per class. If you did 4, from the number of students that Broadford has, divided by 4, basically. Something else that's going on.
That's assuming that our enrollment stays the same as well, just to clarify that, because obviously 4 years down the road, our enrollment is going to change between now and then.
Right.
And you never really want to design your classroom for, the projected enrollment. You want to design it for the state requirements. Typically, it's going to be 25 students max to some degree.
Does anybody else have other questions while I'm looking for the thought that goes with this?
Just one question. I saw mechanically we're using the same HVAC system. Can you just remind me how old that system? I mean, I know there's a few additions to it, but primarily we're using the same heating and cooling system. How old is that system currently?
Part of the Johnson Controls in 12, 13,
And what do we expect the lifespan to be?
25.
Thanks.
And just to clarify, the rooftop units, the air handling units, those things will be replaced. They're old. The VAVs will be replaced. The ductwork will be replaced. The boilers and I think
They're okay.
chiller, those things are good. They were replaced in 2012.
Okay, Rodney, anybody before I finish? Okay, well, I have another point.
And I want to clarify one more thing. That's for the elementary school. Yeah.
Okay, so when I look at, here it is, the rest of it, Broadford. In the current building we occupy, I see in the number in our facilities educational master plan, the state rated capacity is 506. When I look at what we just got, which I know it won't be, we can't go by it for 2 more weeks till September 31st, but we have, this includes pre-K, 559 students at Broadford. When I look at this new pre-K through 6th grade Broadford, it has on there the capacity is for 813 students. So when I subtract the state rated capacity, if I'm wrong, someone correct me, but this is what I've seen. We've added 307 seats. Is that correct?
We've added the portables, which the state doesn't count as state rated capacity. We're adding them under this roof
Okay,
as part of so
but for the new Broadford, is our new capacity for the Broadford 813?
yes,
Is that okay?
that's the new state rated capacity.
But currently, we have enrolled at Broadford 559 students.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly. You have to add the 6th graders,
Okay, well, our current 6th grade,
early childhood.
yes, okay. I think our current 6th grade was, 135 I've seen? If you would take the ones that would be at Broadford,
Is our sick? Yeah. Yes.
Well, I don't disagree that we wouldn't fit, but I'm just trying to because how we got to this point, we've heard over and over, it's been a multiple presentation, is we are underutilized, our buildings. We have declining enrollment. That is why the purpose is to eliminate a footprint, eliminate one of the schools. So I trying to understand how we come to making the state rated capacity for this building more than the building that we are vacating.
Part of the discussion that we had with the state rated capacity is they look at the adjacent schools. So I think there was some vision in this state rated capacity to allow a little room for growth, because we might not necessarily have those in the other southern schools in order to. So there's just some part of this is just a growth factor. And it also goes with the square footage per students to kind of get to that number.
So
And funding.
the growth factor, are you saying that our enrollment's going to increase? Are you saying no? I'm just trying.
Yeah.
I need to understand this, and I want everything to be transparent. Because when I look at it right now, our Crellin enrollment's 142. Yocklay's enrollment's 281. Swan Meadow is 38. So is there a factor that's considering sometime down the road eliminating one of these schools and putting them in there? I'm trying to understand where the 813 capacity is. And I understand the sixth grade would add a little bit to it. Maybe your special ed students. But I mean, the ultimate thing that I've heard in 8 years being on the board is declining enrollment. We need to eliminate buildings. And I just need to understand, is this just for Broadford, pre-K through 6th, or is it adding more capacity to eventually put other elementary schools into this building?
You know, if you use 700 as the number, let's say, with the sixth graders, roughly it's about 86% capacity, which I think will make the state extremely happy at that number, especially when we're shooting 40-some% of our schools right now.
And this is a big project, and it's going to last the school system for a lot of years. So having that 15% for growth, I think is kind of what the IAC.
If you don't design that in there and you happen to have an increase in population of the school population, which is possible because birth rates are cyclic and that type of thing, then you don't want to design so that you're going to have a crowded situation and you have to build another school again.
Or put portables in 2 years after it's open.
And the state will probably not fund the next project.
Right.
Because
Because you didn't take that into account.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there is a requirement there for that.
I guess I look at it too, it's all about the dollar, the money. So like when you're putting on more square footage than you need, that you project you're going to use, like that makes the project even go up more in the dollar amount too.
Based on the number of students.
True.
We're currently, we work with the IAC to put this program together to kind of talk through the areas, and they've seen this and they like it so far. The program itself calls out, I think, 107,000 square feet, gross square feet at the end. We are currently under that by 5,000 gross square feet because of the efficiency of the way we laid things out. So we're doing good things. I mean, as far as that is concerned, so fiscal responsibility has always been a main priority here.
So they're almost saying that we should have more square foot on it than
Based on the way the numbers shake out, it looks that way, but we're not.
Right.
Yeah.
When I look at the Green Book, which is our schematic design submission to board, I'll look at both of them. I guess to a question is we really haven't talked about. It says Garrett County Southern, pre-K through 6th grade, which is actually Broadford moving into a different school. So in time, will we have a vote or discussion if it will be remain being called Broadford Elementary, or will it be Garrett Southern pre-K through 6th?
Good question for the board at the time that, obviously, if the board goes through with that adoption and goes through, it's going to be an agenda item somewhere down the road. It's called.
Right.
I did take some liberties in the renderings, but that's not set in
Right.
stone.
I was
so-
actually,
Well, no, but
I was
we-
actually on the transition and planning team when we built yacht glades. And we got significant input from, John Grant came and did a history of the area and talked about some possible things that could fit with what was in the area. And then we put out a survey to parents. It was a really neat process that I was thinking that's probably what we would follow, but it would be, as Mr. Wood said, much closer to the time, we're just calling it that now so people know what we're talking about, but we would go through a process to name it. It may stay the same, I don't know, but it would be closer to that time.
When you look at page 23, because like I said, some of these are things that wasn't actually in the other book. The first one, relocate stage to gymnasium. When you go under it, 1, 2, 3. The fourth one, potential for outdoor stage, potential. So that is not included in this plan, correct? When it says potential, or was it in the dollar figure? I can't remember.
It was.
It was,
priced out,
okay.
yeah. So essentially all that is an opening with a garage door. And
Okay.
then you can turn the stage around and face it outside. You could do outdoor movies, that kind of thing, like make it a community use space.
Okay. So it's actually on the plan, in the estimate, even though it says potential.
That's correct.
Okay.
And as we get further, if the board were to approve this project, we would get more into depth into those details.
Okay. So basically, pretty much everything in this was in the figure for the estimate for, I think, most of the things listed on here, correct?
Yes, and again, with that caveat, that remember that big
Yes,
blue bubble
I
showed
do.
you? Okay.
Yep.
We have talked about that big blue bubble
Yeah.
a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, when you're on page 24, Southern 7 through 12 high school. My question is, it talks about numerous places, renovated locker rooms. When you say renovated locker rooms, you're referring to the gym, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So my question is, what about the hall main lockers? Will you keep them?
That is currently really not part of the scope of the project.
Okay. Okay.
All right, that's right.
I will add there that I was a little confused when we did this last month about the gymnasium lockers and the team room versus locker rooms. So I did take the liberty to go over and Mr. Wolf, Ryan Wolf, took me and showed me the plan. And I couldn't visualize how that was going to work until he showed me how it's going to work with the half lockers.
Yes.
A great idea.
Yes.
Certainly beyond my pay grade to think of that, but it was a super idea.
Thank you.
Okay, when you look at page 25, possible educational opportunities. Under elementary, third bullet down, computer science resource for upper elementary. Okay, when I think of computer science resource, computers, that mean they'll be using their iPad or laptop? When you think of computer?
So we're thinking, think tech ed at the middle school,
Okay.
and sixth graders get tech ed, computational thinking. We can back math that potentially for upper elementary to provide opportunities in the computer science realm. A lot of times they use Scratch as one of the applications for beginning programming and beginning robotic type things. So we can envision possibly, and again, these are possible educational opportunities, but we would like to brainstorm ways that we can utilize existing staff, distributing them differently than what they currently are to be able to offer that added value to elementary students.
Okay.
Might also, Dr. Miller, as you well know, once those students can kind of get those electives out of the way in the 8th grade, it opens up a multitude of new opportunities for students. Class choices, opportunities, I mean, so many more opportunities, because they're not stuck in that, when do I find a class period to take care of my physical education class or my art class or whatever, so.
Correct.
That's one of the great benefits of I think, of a 7 through 12.
Correct, and it also is advantageous for both the accelerated student as well as the student who needs additional support, because it does free up space when they get to the high school level. Should they need additional support pathways, there's room to do so.
And you said you will let us know what the seating capacity will be for the stage area, correct?
Yeah.
When you get that number.
Correct.
Page 27, the fourth paragraph down. The gym houses a stage that will fill a vital need in Garrett County for performance space. So basically, anybody could do any kind of a show or an event, you're saying, and use. And this in the stage could be, if you do have an outdoor stage for the garage door or the indoor, correct?
Correct.
Yes, and that would be a community use space, and again, that would be more operational than, anything else. So how you open that up to the community would be up to the school system.
So would this possibly be a bigger performance space than Southern High currently has?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Southern High?
Yes. Like the actual, I say stage, but you said.
I would be answering inaccurately if I didn't go back and do
Okay.
some research, but I would guess that no, it would not be larger.
Okay.
That's my guess, so I will confirm.
Okay.
I would think you're right, just based on the size of the cafetorium at Southern versus the size you're proposing
Yes.
at the gymnasium at the middle school. My guess is the gym, the stage at Southern it will be considerably bigger.
Okay. Page 27, building massing. The second paragraph. A small section of the building will be demolished to allow for daylight to get deeper into the school and the media center, as well as provide a secure play area courtyard for younger students. So was that the only section that would be demolished on the middle school? Was that small section, or was there other areas we was going to demolish?
That's the only section that'll be demolished.
Okay.
The building.
That is correct. I mean, there's going to be minor things like window replacements,
Right.
Energy upgrades, those kinds of things, but that's the only, and it's not even major demolition on the project. Currently planned.
Uh-huh. Now our roof, because it's pretty new, you had one part with the gym, you'd have to do something with the roof and put in a beam, but the other part of the roof will remain at Southern Middle, is that correct?
Southern, the new elementary
The
school.
new
Correct.
elementary, yes, okay. Because I didn't see nothing.
Yes, the roof is new and in
Yes.
good shape, so, and roofing is not cheap these days.
Page 28, phasing. The last paragraph, GCPS is prepared to provide additional capacity to Broadford Elementary through the use of trailers for the duration of the current middle school renovation. Trailers. Does that mean something in addition?
You said the last paragraph? The first
Yes,
paragraph?
phasing. The very
Phasing.
last paragraph. Paragraph 1, the last sentence. Additional capacity to Broadford through the use of trailers.
Yeah, so this is where it gets a little,
It's portable.
so the current Broadford Elementary School will have to have additional capacity to house the sixth grade students during the first phase of the project.
Yes,
So they might have to add additional trailers to fit those students there. Right, so that's phase one.
yes.
Then when the elementary school, back and forth, right? The new elementary school gets built, it will have enough capacity to fit PK through 6, those trailers can go away.
Okay. So,
We will, I think I put on the CIP at the end of this school year, we'll kind of project enrollment to see if that, if that funding's needed to add those portable units to Broadford during construction.
okay. And then this, Yelk Glade, what do we say about those sixth graders? Would they stay there during this process?
No.
Or they'll be here at Broadford?
They'll be
I
at
was trying to remember.
Yes.
Because when special education special education is in the new Broadford Elementary, then there'll be room for sixth grade to stay at Yelk Glade.
Correct.
Yes, and the goal behind that is really not to impact the students' education with this construction project. So doing these projects in one fell swoop will mitigate that. I mean, because it does impact the child when they have construction going on throughout
Right.
their educational. Yeah.
Okay. And I see in here on several things, page 28, sustainable design. This building will be designed to achieve a LEED silver certification for the United States Green Building Council based on leadership and energy environmental design. So by doing several things that fall under this category, energy environmental design, you get this certification, but are you able to get like grant money or no money value in
No, I mean, you will get the certification. You might get a plaque if you buy one, but it is a state requirement to do LEED silver for a project of this caliber and this size.
Okay.
At the high school, it will not be because we're not modifying as much of the square footage.
Okay. So
It's-
it
it's a
is
state
state requirement. That's
Yes.
the key. Okay. Okay, currently, this is on page 30. The current way we do things at the high school is I know sometimes if a student doesn't take gym, that they need that credit to graduate, they might not take it in 9th grade. They might wait till they're a junior. So when you might have in your, you'll be a freshman, you might have a sophomore or junior. So I know in some courses you have a variety of different grade levels of students. So when you have, you're putting 7th and 8th into high school, will that be a case? I mean, 7th will stay with 7th all the time, so there won't be a mix. But your 8th grade, is there a possibility they might be mixed in with 9th for gym or anything, or they remain 8th graders only?
So I would think that would depend on if we're offering it for high school credit. And so we will have to work that out administratively once we get to that point of
Okay.
if we are offering it for high school credit.
So 8th grade possibly, but 7th grade
7th
being
grade
in
will
their
be
own community.
standalone.
7th grade will, okay.
7th grade will be a standalone.
Okay.
I would say it is possible that they all could be using the gym space at the same time. You know, so like you might have a 7th grade class in the auxiliary and you may have high school classes going on in the main gym. There's going to be students using the gym probably all day,
Right.
every day, just because of the nature of PE and how many students want that. We also have weight training at high school, so there's going to be a class in the weight training area. So there's likely to be 9th through 12th grade students in the gym area when 7th and 8th graders are there, but I do see 7th grade as a standalone class, and then 8th grade will be determined once we know more.
Yeah, with the curtain in the auxiliary gym, you can actually have 4 different gym classes going on at the same time.
Yeah, yes, and that's actually what Ms. Bernard, is that right? We met with her, and she mentioned that operationally it's not an issue to have that many different age groups in the gym. The locker rooms were the biggest concern.
Right.
So,
Okay. Page 31. The 5th bullet down, top of the page. Allied Health to move to the agricultural wing as a facility for increased synergies. I looked that word up. It says cooperation of 2 or more organizations. So what's the cooperate? I mean, besides you're friendly when you cooperate with each other, but it's not really the same pathway, correct? The agriculture and allied health.
I think that is really just to provide like continuity of programming in that area.
Okay.
So we have ag back there, we have on that hallway automotive, we
Carpentry.
have PLTW engineering, machining. There's a lot of CTE courses down that hallway.
Okay.
It makes sense
Right.
to have the nursing program as well down that hallway.
Okay, so basically just add it to the CTE programs down there.
we can modify that word.
Okay,
Could
well,
be a better word.
well, I just thought cooperation. I didn't think they was going to do the same things together. Okay, under that, site design. A small renovation shall occur to better organize and vastly improve the student drop-off. So I guess my question is, the way it is now and has been for a while, I think depending on your grades and things, the seniors have the option to park up along the road, up in the front parking lot. Will that still be, or will they have to park elsewhere if you change the parking some? And having 7th and 8th there, you possibly might have more teachers, so you'll take up more parking. I didn't know what that meant for seniors, because that was the question that was asked to me of children.
Well, I think we'd have to count the spaces and count the staff, and then, the school administration have to make the determination of the parking locations, based on the number of spaces.
Okay.
Proposed number is 295.
I see pre-K through 6th on page 33, the very bottom of the page. The proposed number of parking spaces is 295, which exceeds the required number as outlined. And then it says the multi-purpose lot will contain additional 50 spaces. So that actually is probably more parking than we have at the high school, correct? The 295 and the 50?
This is the elementary.
Yeah, this is elementary, but we don't have that much parking at Southern up front, do we?
No.
I didn't think so.
That includes, the extra 50 is essentially taking a multi-purpose paved play area and striping it for after-hours parking, that kind of thing. So we're not adding pavement in that location. So it's just a double duty.
Okay. Okay, when you look at page 36, exterior recreation facilities. During the 2 years when this would be under construction, I guess that means that our playing fields would probably, the committee wouldn't be able to use them, right? How would that work? The outside field, we talked about the space of the gyms, but what about
You're talking about the area beyond
like
Southern Middle?
where they
The
play
playfield.
soccer
Yeah.
and different things? Would that be off limits during this?
No, I wouldn't think that.
You wouldn't think?
No, I think we could. Fence off the construction site adequately that they could still utilize those fields.
If the plan does not change, probably the first thing that would happen is that loop road for a construction entrance for the contractor. So they would be accessing the site from Harvey Winters Road, and their limits of disturbance, or the area that they're actually allowed to disturb, could not include those fields. So those fields could stay, but that's a detail in the future for sure.
Right.
Let's see, this is.
So page 41, additions, the first sentence, which you talked about this last month. The proposed additions include an administration office, special education and behavioral center, and community space for Judy Center. So it's basically 3 areas, correct? Administration office, 1, special education behavioral center, 2, community space for Judy Center, 3. So those will be 3 areas that are added on.
Well, really, because we're adding those areas to the building, the additions will start to encompass other programs. So it's not necessarily program specific in that statement.
Right.
It's more or less saying, the building's growing for these programs, but it's not necessarily the spaces that are new.
Okay. But it's in addition to the building. Like, you're meaning like square foot build on, or just
It's additional program.
additional program? Okay, not the space.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think I need to reword that.
Programs, yes, thank you.
What's the page number?
Page 42, Southern 7th through 12th High School. And basically, you're just doing renovations. We're not adding on new square footage. You're making an area dedicated for 7th graders and the area for the 8th grade. And
Correct.
Yes.
okay. You give a lot of details, narrative descriptions on the wiring and lighting. Very good, but okay. Page 50, the sound system. the last sentence. The systems will be muted for intercom announcements or emergency calls. So I guess my question is, will each classroom have, we'll see something later, like a phone or something? Say there would be a situation in an individual classroom and you want to get to the office, but you don't, just a conversation between you as a staff to the office. Will there be a phone they can pick up and call, a line in the classroom?
We currently have phones in our classrooms for that at this current time.
Okay. So it'll be the same
Yeah.
working. Okay.
Yeah.
No intercom system.
The intercom runs through the phones with the speakers. Yeah.
But then again, if the announcement needs to get to the whole school, it'll go through, or there's multiple ways it works.
The new fire alarm system at Southern High, there was an adequate system that can communicate throughout the building as part of that.
Okay. Page 51 talks about fire protection. This made me think of years ago something that happened at a school. Say the alarm would go off saying that there's a fire at the school, and there's technically not a fire, or the firemen come, the doors are locked. Like, do they have they know a code or something that they can be able to get into the building without having to break down the door if they don't see?
Yeah. Mr. Clark Warnick, they now have the knock box on every one of our facilities that has the appropriate key, and then they train the firemen within that local area.
Or even for...
He does walk-arounds with the state police and that to kind of make familiar. So he's very, he's on top of those things.
Okay.
Yep.
Page 52, we're back to food service, which you talked about this little bit earlier. The second paragraph, last sentence. The freezer addition will accommodate the required needs of additional food storage and provide a safe and secure situation for the food service staff. So instead of walking out of the building going, it'll be right there accessible to them, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Page 54, water efficiency. The last sentence, it says the design team recommends incorporating high efficiency sinks, 1 pint per flush urinals, high efficiency or dual flush toilets to reduce portable water needs. Selecting high efficiency fixtures may capture additional LEED credits. So currently we have a control agreement or something with Johnson Controls. So will that end that Johnson Controls agreement when we have this new stuff, or how does that work? Like in this school, I should say, not everywhere.
The agreement we have with Johnson Controls is that we're just paying for those things that were installed then. We don't have like an actual agreement
Okay.
with them. Okay.
Okay. So that.
And these are lead considerations. Let's put them that way. As we get through the project, we're going to have to take a deeper look at these. The IEC is just going to require us to have considered the credits that we can achieve to get LEED Silver. So if there's something on here in this packet for the LEED submission that we don't want to pursue, we would have to pursue other credits in other areas.
Okay.
That one particularly pertains to toilets. I mean, you might not want to have a dual flush toilet, or you might not want to have a zero flush toilet. So we'd look elsewhere.
Okay. So this is just things that you can to make it
It's a
efficient.
starting point, yes. And
Okay.
It's things that LEED will require to get that credential.
Okay. Yeah, when it says toilets to reduce water needs, I don't think that might be a good thing, because sometimes children use a lot more toilet paper, and I think you need,
Pros and cons.
there is, and I know the bad parts about it. Okay, when you get to page 56, and I'm sure this is a question that will come out later, but I'm just going to ask now. First paragraph. The current analysis suggests that the project may capture 7 to 15 points. The architect will select carpets, flooring, paints, and other interior products. So that part of it, will any of that be things that might be able to put out for bid that our local people can, like the carpets, the paints, different things? Can local people be able to bid on it? Different contractors, so maybe we can support local businesses, not be all
Yes, we prioritize local.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. I know we did in the past.
And during the process, too, the design process, when we get further along, there will be committees that will help us select those things. It's not going to be something we do
Right.
in a blindly. We'll all be working together, and it will be fun.
Okay. On your site drawings on page 73, it says existing conditioning notes. Area of existing building, 92,000 square feet. Then it says difficult spaces to move shall remain in current locations. So what you have highlighted, cafeteria, kitchen, service, gym support, gymnasium, auxiliary gym. That's what you're saying. Those will not be moved. They'll stay in the same location because it would be more expense if you relocate them, correct?
There's structural implications of why we would do that, and utility implications, why not to move them, for instance, like the restrooms. Corridors would stay in the same place generally, but they would be renovated. Those spaces would get
Right.
A facelift.
Okay. So overall, was we adding many restrooms for the pre-K through sixth? Well, I mean, you have an individual one in the classrooms for, you said, pre-KK, Head Start pre-KK, correct? So those would be the ones that would be adding. Okay.
That's correct, and those would be the single-user toilet rooms,
Yes.
kind of dedicated to that classroom, so they will not be public restrooms. But we do have the current toilet capacity for the current middle school is it meets the current code requirements, but we do have other additional toilet spaces in the plan.
That's what I thought. Okay.
And we still need to take a deeper dive into that capacity count, just to make sure it's all meeting. There will be, yes, adequate toilets. The code minimum requires more than you actually need.
Okay, page 77, it says Bradford Elementary School modernization, and then your floor plans. And it looks like you can see, it says area of demolition. So it's saying we're removing of the current building 3,500 square feet. Is that correct? And then
Yes.
you are going to build 6,320 feet, correct?
That is correct.
So when it's said and done, we will actually have about 2,820 additional square feet built on to the building from what the original size was. Does that sound right? No?
No. So the area of demolition will be 3,500 square feet removed.
Yes.
And then we are adding back we're infilling those corners, as you can see in some of the renderings, of 6,320 square feet.
Uh-huh.
So once you do the math, the total ends up being 101,820 square feet. So that's about an addition of about 10,000 square feet net. Did you follow me there? Basically, the demo
Okay.
and the addition, you've got to kind of add those together to get your full added area.
So it is a little bit more square feet than actually added on to the building than what it was.
Yes, it's about 10,000 square feet more.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Currently, the building is 92,000 square feet. We're shooting it at 102,000 square feet, roughly.
Okay. Now your future expansion on here, that's something that's not, this can be years and years down the road. Is that right? Where you had the
That is correct. As we
future?
were talking about growth previously,
Yes.
the IEC will also require us to consider future growth if the enrollment and the population continues to grow. We need to have a plan for that. It's basically so you don't build yourself into a hole.
So basically showing that there is a spot on the building that can be space allowed.
Correct.
Okay. I think that was all my questions right now. I tried to make it simple. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board members, Alexis, anyone? Questions? This is an updated item. It's not for action. It's just for updated questions that we may have. Okay, great. Might be good if both of you just stay there in case there are questions about the grade band alignment. That might become something that either of you can assist the superintendent with, so. Yes. Yeah. Before we, well, I'm sorry, I'm gonna need you to move because we're gonna do public comment first. Just stay close by, I guess. And we apologize for being late on the public comment, but we wanted to do public comment before we did the grade band analysis and recommendation by the superintendent. So Mike Keppel would like to speak about grade band alignment.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name's Mike Keppel. Mr. Woods actually had your wife at Broadford in the 70s. I don't remember the year, but I remember she was pregnant.
Well, I can tell you that year. That year would have been 77, 78.
Yep. But my wife Jan and I were asked to, and had the privilege to be on the parent representatives on the Educational Specification Committee. And during the 2 days of meetings, we, along with other parents, teachers, faculty, and students, were able to state our concerns and ask questions and make suggestions. Grimm and Parker have done an outstanding job in including our suggestions and addressing our concerns. They've exceeded my expectations with the final product. And I thank them for a good job. I'm confident that the new grade band alignment will work for our community as it does in other surrounding states. It's also my understanding that before we had our middle schools, our county was very similar. And it seems like it's more common in other areas. And in talk with my own children and hearing from the student representatives at the meetings, none of them seem to like middle school anyway. And, and I currently have a middle schooler who's, Monica mentioned lockers. I currently have a middle schooler who has a hard time using his 45-year-old locker, and I have a high schooler that has never used his. And I think this plan is the best way to utilize our current resources and secure the funding for the improvements to give our students every opportunity to have a safe, quality education in the future. I think it's a much better than the possible alternative of having a centralized high school, which no one that I talk to is in favor of doing. I'd like to end with a quote from Thomas Edison. "We shall have no better conditions in the future if we are satisfied with all of those which we have at present." And I'd also like to add that my wife and I enjoy having these meetings on Facebook and all that, so we can watch them from home. And I'm sure she's at home watching right now, but I hope that they plan to continue that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I will tell Mrs. Woods you said hello. Our next speaker tonight is Mike Henderson.
Good evening. Name's Mike Henderson. I just wanted to bring out clarity on some things that were mentioned. The IAC work group on the assessment funding of school facilities. Recommendation number 11. Excess capacity in adjacent schools may not be appropriate if it is scattered among multiple schools or grade levels. Grade levels is the appropriate word here. I don't think you qualify as moving to an adjacent school. The second thing that hasn't been mentioned is the IAC established a Maryland Condition Index so that every school is giving a rank so that they compare apples with apples and oranges with oranges. If you proceed with this project, are they going to use the condition of the school that you're closing or the school that you intend on going to? The state average is 47%, and if you come in less than 70, 80% on the middle school project, you probably will not get funding. We need a backup plan if your funding is declined. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. Now, if, you gentlemen can come back. Our next order of business is a grade band alignment. The superintendent will make that presentation. This is an action item for tonight. We will entertain certainly questions from the Board of Education. Rather than ask for a motion at the moment, I'm going to let you make your presentation first. We'll entertain questions and then we'll see if there is a motion to be made.
Okay, thank you. The recommendation is outlined in the presentation at the end. So, I believe, yes, okay. So, you will see, and I will preface this presentation by saying that a number of the slides and the information that will be provided this evening are slides from previous presentations, and there is there's little new information except for to answer a couple of questions that came from the public and or the board members. So you'll see on the first slide that at the very end I will be providing the recommendation specific to the renovation of the Southern Middle facility and the grade band alignment for the Southern End Elementary School of Broadford, Southern Middle, and Southern Garrett High School. You'll see again the background of the Southern Middle facility. I think that has been very well covered in the previous presentation by our two presenters. The perfect storm slide is included, the educational opportunities, program considerations, and then specifically discussion of the 6th grade at Yoklades and Crellin. And then finally, the recommendation and the timeline will be at the end. So, as I've stated several times, we have been working to renovate Southern Middle School now for over 10 years. If you include a few planning years ahead, it was probably longer than 10 years. In 2013-15, we began planning. 16, we did a strategic facilities plan. And then in 2018, we did start systemic renovations on the roof, fire alarm, and sewer system. And the facility is 45 years old, and the systemic renovations and minor updates have occurred. The facility is still largely original. And I think that was a question earlier about when some of those updates were completed, and that is one reason why Southern Middle is being considered, because they have received some of those renovations. It should be modernized. I think that we have, that this board has done an excellent job asking questions as to what the new space will look like, but it was built in 1977. We intermittently did walls, even when I was teaching there, but it really doesn't contribute to a quality instructional program, even though we have fantastic teachers that do the absolute best they can within the space. And again, as I've stated many times, it does align with my priorities to eliminate the existing open space formats and provide updates to security. And that, as you well know, is extremely important in this day and age. Now, however, even though we've been spending quite some time trying to get these projects renovated, many variables have changed, and that's what leads to the next slide that you've seen many times, and that's the perfect storm. And I'm not going to read this, except for you know that the blueprint for Maryland's future changed a number of things about what we are going to need to do operationally and instructionally. We do have a declining enrollment, and this has been occurring for many years, losing an average about 1.7 students per year, and this year is no different. The revenue and budget, we will continue to need to allocate more and more funding to our blueprint requirements, and the declining enrollment decreases our potential revenue to be able to do it. And you're all well aware of the state capital program and the revolutionary changes that have occurred there with the Built to Learn Act and the accountability changes at the Interagency Commission for School Construction, as we always refer to as the IAC. And these changes really have had us look to stakeholders and staff and board members to consider alternatives, and tonight to look at a revised grade band alignment for Garrett County Public Schools. Okay, so this is a new slide that has not been presented before. However, it was included in the packet from the Grimman Parker. And I want to make sure to state that earlier, Dr. Miller referenced convening the committee that had really looked at all of these educational opportunities and said that we would be, I think you said, Dr. Miller, reconvening that group as we move forward. But I do want to make sure to state that the principals of Mrs. Knapp, Mrs. Wazlowski, and Mr. Wolf were included on that committee as we worked through all of the instructional implications. And I wanted to thank all three of them for their input. So you will see in this slide, and again, I think it was talked about at length earlier, so again, I'm not going to read each thing, but you know, the board members did ask for specific value added things that we would possibly be able to do should we realign the grade bands and move forward with this project, including the early childhood offerings, the collaborative classrooms, computer science resources for our upper elementary, perhaps media specialists that additionally can support student research, the makerspace, the science lab, the Junior National Honor Society that we mentioned earlier, additional support for students with behavioral mental health needs, additional environmental instructional areas, additional areas for special education that they may not have access to, outdoor learning opportunities. And then for the students, very well covered earlier this evening, opportunity for 8th graders to receive high school credit in perhaps tech ed, PE, fine arts, and as we mentioned earlier, foreign language. We may be able to accelerate the path for English classrooms, provide therapeutic support in the classroom, increase our opportunity for support for students who are not on track to meet college and career readiness. This one is going to be vital as we meet the new blueprint requirements. Again, we may be able to add foreign language, and the very last bullet, which I think is very important, because when you look at the next bullet, you will want to think back to this one, and that is to sustain our current electives and programming. We, I believe, in Garrett County Public Schools have done an excellent job of offering credits and programming that students are interested in and that students need. These are ever changing as the requirements of the workforce are changing, and I think this plan presents our best opportunity to continue to keep the programs that we have and enhance or add some potential others. Okay, now on this next slide, I want to explain before I go any further. At an earlier board meeting, we did have board members that asked that if we do not start looking at our footprint as a school system, obviously this evening we're just looking at the future really of our 3 largest southern area schools, but Broadford would be reduced in our footprint. These items on this slide are absolutely in no particular order and are not significantly impacted by the decision tonight. However, there are things that we need to keep thinking about, as I talked about in the last slide, of being able to sustain the programs that we currently have and the offerings that we're able to have for our high school and our middle and our elementary students. So what we've done is put together a list of everything that is not currently required in state mandate, and you will see there are, I don't have them counted, but there are a significant number of items on this list. They are in no order, and this does by no means mean anything that we would cut. This is to answer the board member questions of things that possibly could be eliminated if we don't right-size some of our schools and really look at our footprint. But to me, this does not impact tonight's decision at all. These are just some things that we will need to consider in subsequent years as we work through the budget process. And as I said, it's anything that's really not required by the state law or the new blueprint legislation. I'm not even going to read them. You will see anything from weight training and physical activity to wildlife and forestry management or web design to the I Can Swim program to sporting activities to field trips, robotics. I want to make sure that I state again This is not a list of possible cuts. This is a list of things that we want to make sure that we are always considering ways that we can enhance or continue to offer, as we move through subsequent budget years that could be very difficult. Next. Thank you. Okay, so in response to board member questions as well, this slide from Yoklades Elementary, you can see the layout. And as we've talked about earlier this evening, once the renovation is complete, the two highlighted classrooms that are listed on the right-hand side, if you look the way Yoklades is laid out, the two that are highlighted, right now, those classrooms would be reallocated to the new Broadford Southern Middle School elementary portion of the school. This would allow Yoklades to have two additional classrooms to house their 6th grade, making Yoklades a pre-K to 6 school, okay? I want to make sure that the board members know that I met individually, as I mentioned earlier, there are 3 principals on our committee, but when we were talking about specific schools, I did go out and seek input from the principals of those schools. I met with Mrs. Ross on 2 different occasions to get her input. She said that she of course, would support this plan, but to quote Mrs. Ross, I hope you don't mind, she said that she would just miss those kids if they weren't in her school, and I genuinely believe that. She's doing a fantastic job. But she did say that as we move through this move, storage can be an issue. We need to look at the scheduling of art, music, and PE, because the 6th graders, an additional room or 2 of 6th grade will have some impact, and she is supporting the recommendation that I will get to in a few minutes as far as the 6th grade students in the transition while we are constructing the new school. Okay, when you look at Krellen, I don't have a pointer, so I'll try and speak loudly. Better. I don't know if I guess that's better. Those 2 classrooms were built as modular portable classrooms some time ago. So what we want to look at for Krellen, currently, and again, I met with Dr. McCauley on 2 separate occasions as well to talk about this. And what we decided for Krellen, because it's not quite as easily a fit as it is at Yoklades, what we would like to do at Krellen is to have a feasibility study on exactly what we could do at Krellen to make it a pre-K through 6 school, which Dr. McCauley is in support of, is what she said. She would love to have pre-K. She would love to keep her 6th graders. And so I would, in the next slide, you will see why we would recommend and what the timeline would be, okay? What we would like to do, and you will see it when we talk about the CIP, the Capital Improvement Plan, in a little bit, the following timeline is what we would like to recommend. That in FY24, you can see the dates, we would look at the feasibility. FY25, depending on what the options are that are presented, look at the A&E, and then the construction for the Krellen pre-K to 6th. Now, what we don't know, I'm going to come back to my regular mic. That works. At Krellen, and what we hope the study will tell us is there enough space at Krellen currently to maybe lop off that 4th and 5th grade spot in the back and build enough space to have pre-K, because currently there is not enough room for pre-K at Krellen, 6th grade, so then it might have 4 classrooms, pre-K 4, 5, and 6. However, if you want to, could you go back one slide for me? When you look at Krellin and its all-purpose room, listed here as, I think, gymnasium cafeteria, that is where the students at Krellin have art, music, and phys ed. If we added another, say, 40 children, 45 children, there isn't enough room at Krellin to be able to host lunch shifts for an additional 40 to 45 kids and be able to provide art, music, and PE. So that's another thing we would like a feasibility study to tell us is if we can add additional space for an art room or a shared space. I know at Grantsville they share art and music, and you might still be able to use the all-purpose room as a gymnasium, maybe not. So that's why we are recommending a feasibility study to show us all of those things during the transition if the board adopts the grade band realignment this evening. Okay, now if you'll go ahead to. Okay, so 6th grade considerations. During construction of the new Broadford Southern Middle, 6th grade students in the Broadford district would remain at Broadford in the current modular classrooms or in portable classrooms. We talked about this earlier, and I think, Mr. Wolf, in your presentation, you basically called them trailers? Is that what it said? Modulars. It would not be the current modular classrooms. It would be more of a trailer. Similarly to what we had the students housed in when we renovated Northern Middle School. Now, if you look at the next bullet, during construction of the new Broadford Southern Middle, it is recommended that the 6th grade students from both the Auchlades and Krellin districts attend with the Broadford students in the current modular classrooms or in the portable classrooms and would move to Southern Garrett High School together. And then you'll see the next 2 points. 6th grade students at Auchlades could remain, but significant changes to schedule and locations of art, music, and PE would be necessary. And at Krellin, there is currently not enough space at Krellin for 6th grade students to remain. However, the portable classrooms that may be necessary at Broadford could be located at Krellin during the construction period. And that is what we would need if the feasibility study tells us that a more significant construction project is necessary there and the board votes to adopt that. We may need to have portable classrooms for the entire school during the construction phase. We don't have room at any of the southern area elementary schools to house all of the students that are currently at Krellin. I don't think that that decision needs to be made this evening because there are so many factors that will go into how this plan lays out in the subsequent years, particularly how many students we would be looking at. If we have 100 students system-wide in the 6th grade, that will be a very different discussion than if we have 150 6th grade students in the southern area elementary schools. However, I think the feasibility study will tell us a good deal that we need to know. And if the board is comfortable with the grade band alignments, we can start working on current student numbers and projected numbers and come to the board with a plan if you desired them to stay at Krellin, if you decided the 6th grade should stay and be in a trailer at the Krellin campus, or if you would like to see everybody in Broadford for equity purposes, then everybody would stay together in the 6th grade and then they would all go to the high school together. Okay, so if you could go to yep, thank you. All right, this slide is not new, but it does, the very first part at the top is the recommendation that the Southern Middle School facility be modernized to become a pre-kindergarten to 6th grade facility, Southern High School to become a 7th through 12th grade facility, and the Broadford Elementary School be demolished. The rest of the information on this slide it really talks about the benefits of this recommendation, and we've talked about those at length this evening. a better accommodation for traffic patterns, for community open space area, for parking, to accommodate early childhood, behavior intervention, special education. And then upon completion of construction, sixth graders would remain in their home schools for all Southern elementary schools. Now, Swan Meadow is not included in that plan because their grade band is already different of being a K to 8 school, so they would remain a K to 8 school. That would not be impacted by this recommendation this evening. Also, a benefit of voting in favor of this is the Southern High School facility and grounds would also receive necessary modernization to accommodate the 7th and 8th grade students. Limited renovations include alterations to current instructional spaces and also, as we discussed earlier, traffic patterns and parking lot changes. You will see a little bullet at the bottom, a note that all capital projects must be approved by the funding authority of the Maryland IAC and local government. I think more than any other project that since I've been superintendent, this one has been the most collaborative with the IAC, whether it be with Mr. Wolf's team or Mr. Wazlowski and Mrs. Schweitzer working with the IAC. I am confident that this project will be approved, and I'm very hopeful that this project would be approved by the local government as we are trying our best to get every dollar under the 90-10 to take advantage of that, what I call a wonderful windfall and blessing. And once we have those projects in place, then they are set. And that is, of course, a benefit in case there are changes at the IAC and through local government. Finally, the recommended timeline is the last slide. Again, there is not much new information on this slide, but during this school year, we would begin our submission of the project. Basically, the packets that Mr. Wolf and Mr. Wazlowski talked about in the last section of the agenda would go to the IAC, but they really are aware of just about everything in those packets, I believe. Next school year, we would begin the A&E and the design. Then we will also start the limited renovations of Southern High School. Then these 2 school years, we don't anticipate any significant staff or student disruption to instruction. Then in school year 24-25, we will begin the construction phase of the new Southern Middle Broadford Elementary. 7th and 8th grade students would begin that year attending the high school because their limited renovations would be complete. 6th grade students would attend Broadford, and then I put portables may or may not be required based upon utilization, and I said we would work on some of the projections. Current projection is 147 6th grade students. And this would be our planning years for the 6th grade students at Crellin and Yoklades. Would they stay? Would we put a trailer? Would we make adjustments at Yoklades? Then in school year 25-26, construction continues on the Southern Middle Broadford facility and is completed, so that's over 2 school years. And then finally, as we've talked about most of the evening, in school year 26-27, our pre-K to 6 students would occupy the new modernized facility. The Yoklades Special Education Center would be shifted to the new facility, and Yoklades students would remain at Yoklades. Crellin 6th grade students may or may not remain at Crellin. Further analysis is required through the feasibility study that we're recommending, and this analysis will occur in fiscal year 24. It will depend on space and size and what the needs are, but I would anticipate that by 26-27, we would hopefully be able to align Crellin to have the same grade band as Yoklades and the new Broadford Southern Middle School. You'll see the same note at the bottom that all capital projects must be approved by the IAC and local government, but again, I'm confident that they will approve this project that so many have worked so very hard. And Mr. Keppel, you and your wife's input in this process and your being here tonight to support the project is much appreciated. And you were very involved and went to meetings in the evening and were at the meeting the very next day, and it's much appreciated. And I think the board can be confident that we did seek significant stakeholder input into this plan, whether it be through a dedicated email, listening sessions, and certainly the planning sessions with stakeholders. So you can, if you'd like to go back to the slide before, the dark print at the top is the recommendation. I can certainly change that. Well, that's my recommendation. You all can decide on a motion, should there be one.
Well, as I said earlier, before we entertain a motion, I would like to entertain questions from the board that you may have on the superintendent's presentation. And then once we've completed all those questions, then we'll see if there is a motion. Questions? Anyone? Yes, Rodney?
The only thing I'm not quite clear on is the retaining the sixth graders at Yoklade or sending them over to Broadford. Did you do a cost analysis on what would be cheaper to put a modular at Yoklade or to put them all at Broadford? And it just
We
seems
have
like-
not done a cost analysis for that, for putting a trailer there, a portable classroom. I believe that based on the last few years, there could be room in the music and art room if those teachers were to travel again. That is not the recommendation of Mrs. Ross, from what I understand, or her teachers, I'm sure. We believe that with the current projected enrollment that there would be space at Broadford, but we could certainly, again, do a cost analysis for how much a portable classroom, two, because we would need two based on the current enrollment figures at Yoklades.
Well, that would be a consideration, but also what's best for the sixth graders, the rising sixth graders that are graduating from Yoklades, to stay there or to move them to it with another group that they
Right.
haven't been with for the first 5 years of their school careers. So
And I certainly absolutely understand that.
I'm not sure
Yes.
which is best
Right.
to do, but
And we could certainly, when we do the feasibility study at Crellin, we could certainly look at the feasibility of putting two modular classrooms, whatever they end up, how much they end up costing, but also, is there a space? You know, Yoklades, the actual grounds are designed a little differently, some
Right.
of our other schools.
might not
so,
be able to do it, but
Yeah.
I just, because you're making that recommendation here, I just wouldn't want to preclude the possibility of changing that if it
Certainly.
looks more beneficial to the children at Yoklades.
Right, and if the cost is, isn't too much different, then, and those students could stay there, we would certainly explore that.
Okay. And a feasibility study on Crellin looks like a good
Right.
idea.
Questions? Jason?
Just one question. So the special education students that are currently at Yoklades, once the building is complete, they would move to the new elementary school, new Broadford Elementary School. Is that reducing the space and limiting the number of students for that? Or are we adding more space? So we're taking the special education program out of Yoklades. I want to just make sure we're not reducing that program by moving it into the new school, because then we're combining both the special education program at Broadford and Yoklades into one space.
Right, but currently Yoklades is the special education center.
Right.
So there are students that could be in the Broadford district that go to Yoklades because their IEP determines they go to the special ed center. I don't believe there's any reduction in space.
There
or-
is not any
programming.
reduction in the space or program. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So is there additional space to be able to service more students that may need those services?
Yes, because the special ed spaces have a less SRC or student rated capacity, you're going to end up at Yoklades with a space that will accommodate 25, 30 students, for instance, and then one classroom that the special ed students only had about 10. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, and just a teeny bit of history. When this facility was opened, this was the special education center for the southern end of Garrett County. Yoklades was already built at that time, so we actually retrofit those classrooms at Yoklades to house the special education students. We probably, if we had built it from scratch like we're doing here, would have made those classrooms a little larger with a little bit more enhancement for those children. So I'm glad to confer with Mr. Wolf that we would be able to enhance the program, and I believe have plenty of space for those students that require it. Thank you.
Just a question regarding implementation. As far as the budget and consideration of that, is the consideration in this project for a project manager to facilitate?
Yes,
What's going on?
between the things that will need to be done for the feasibility study at Crellin, for the to retrofit back the classrooms at Younglades possibly for this huge project. And then the Southern High School is called a limited renovation. What I'd like to do is have a project manager for this project so that Mr. Wazlowski can concentrate on the other three or four projects that will be quite lengthy those same budget years. But yes, I think a project manager would not only be very beneficial but required due to the scope of the project. Yes.
Just as we look at moving 7th and 8th graders to the high school, more again about implementation if the decision is made. As far as counseling suite, that really wasn't covered as far as counseling services, and some of those 7th and 8th graders might see some challenges as they're mixed in with older students. Has that been thought about as far as how that would split, knowing that counselors currently through 9 through 12 have a fairly full plate either through career development, college applications, whatever it may be. So what is the plan for that?
Well, I look at counselors, and I probably should say, I talked about principals, assistant principals, administrative assistant secretaries, counselors, nurses. We will have the same number of students, so it would be my goal to have the same number of school counselors as well. They may be reallocated to the new elementary middle with another one at the high school to accommodate, because 7th and 8th grade, those can be some challenging years for students. They are going through a number of things, and I think having a dedicated counselor would be very beneficial.
So,
and we have 2 at the current Southern
I
Middle
understand
School.
we have 2, but you have 3 grades, so if you leave one back, right, to cover 6th grade, that only leaves one counselor for grades 7 and 8. I think that's a bit of a stretch. Rather than splitting a workload, you're taking, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So my question
Yes.
would be, would there be a need for an additional counselor at that 7 through 12 level? They could possibly be split between 7th
Right.
and 8th and 9 through 12, knowing that 9 through 12 is probably a
Right,
bit
we have 2
overwhelmed
for
as
9
well.
through 12, so we
Exactly,
could,
yeah, but
yes.
there
But you're
could be
right, they
overwhelmed times
do
that-
quite a bit, yes.
But I just don't think that
Yeah.
split is fair to leave one back with 6th grade and you have one moving forward with 2 grade bands. So,
And there are currently 2, one that does service another school at the elementary. So in consultation with Mr. Hummel, it is possible that we could provide that additional support, not just automatically say one would stay with the 6th grade. They'll have their transition issues too, going from 6th to 7th, but, I think certainly no fewer counselors. We may work through this budget process or the following year to add another counselor at some point.
We should also remember that we have career counselors too at the high
Right,
school
which
level
is-
now.
yeah.
So there is an additional counselor as well who's helping. So that's another factor to consider as we move forward. Thank you. And also with the blueprint, my understanding is the workforce development board is going to have to be pushing resources in to support career counseling as well. So there's a number of things that could also go to help alleviate some pressure on the high school counselors that we could look at grade banding even within the high school. 7 through 9, 10 through 12, those types of models are out there. So that's something to consider too.
Other questions? Anyone? Yes, Monica.
When you talk about, we're not talking about them, but this is just for me, I didn't realize this. Under the possible programmatic considerations, it says offering general merit and honors course. We don't have to offer all of them at the high school level? What do we have to offer for the state of Maryland?
We are not required to have general honors and merit courses. In fact, before I became superintendent, we started doing a study and looking at condensing that into two instead of 3. But we still have 3.
So what does the state not require? One of those 3, or just that you offer all 3? That's what I'm confused. What do they say that we don't have to? I mean, I'm glad we offer all 3, and I support offering all 3.
Right. I'm not sure which
Oh.
one we would eliminate. I think there are models that have 2 or.
Okay, I just thought, I never knew
I
that
would
until
have
that
to.
was on
I
there.
would have to do a little bit of research. What's typical around the state, and to see which one. But again, anything on this list is just
Right.
very preliminary.
But I never heard that, so that's why I questioned. You talked about the trailers, like depending on if the sixth grade from Crellin, Yocklade will stay at Broadford, along with the Broadford, might need to do a trailer. So if you purchased a trailer, is that something that you rented or something you buy? Like this is new. Do you? Uh huh.
Right.
So at Northern, is that what probably was done? You leased it and
They were just, right, they.
yeah, because we don't have it.
Right, we didn't buy them, to my knowledge, because as soon as Northern Middle was occupied and everybody went back to their original locations, we didn't have those anymore. Right,
Yes.
right. But I wanted to make sure that people, they would be more of a trailer like we had during that renovation than they would be like the modular classrooms we have at Broadford that we purchased. Right. It would depend on the cost at the time, which we don't know right now, which would be the best option, whether it would be to lease or to buy.
Okay.
Just on that point, I said it last meeting, but it seems to me, because these are essential for the project to go forward, that it should be eligible for funding under the state. But we need to keep working on that, I think. I don't know. Have you approached them, the state, about that? Well, I know, but what's the alternative? What they're doing, okay.
Right.
Well, that doesn't hurt to ask. And
It doesn't, because many years the A&E wasn't included at all, right? And now limited, it's included.
I
so-
would make the argument with them. Really.
Yeah, I would, yes.
We can certainly raise the topic with them.
I'm sorry.
You're okay. So then you talked about Crellin. You said about doing a feasibility study. You had it not till 2023, and then architect engineering fiscal year 2025. So when it was stated here earlier tonight that now's the windfall with our 90-10 split, so would that not be a thing that we would want to get the feasibility study done sooner than later? And a feasibility study, does that cost an estimated, is that a,
We have a placeholder on the CIP for the feasibility study. We don't think that it would be that intensive, although if we add a little bit of work at Yocklades, it could be. However, when you look at the dates where it says FY '24, but if you look underneath that, it's 7/1/23. So that we actually would start that next summer.
in July?
Right. So even though FY '24 it's only 22, it does seem a ways away for '24. It really is. We would be looking at that next summer.
Okay. So you said later down the road is when the discussion will be again about the sixth graders, where they will remain during the projects.
Right. I think to Mr. Leffelly's point, there's, without having a little bit more secure numbers on how many sixth grade students we would be looking at, and whether two trailers perhaps to house the students at Yocklades and one to house the students at Crellin, if that's more beneficial than the current space at Broadford. But if we have the space at the current Broadford, depending on what the enrollment does over the next year or so, if we have the room there and we could save the expense of additional trailers, but I think we just need to know a little bit more about the enrollment before we make that final decision on the sixth grade students.
Right.
And of course, what's best instructionally, but I think we do have to consider what the enrollment figures are and the cost analysis as well.
So your recommendation is to have a pre-K through 6th at Bradford Elementary will be pre-K through 6th in the current Southern Middle School building and place 7th and 8th grade at Southern High School. Correct?
And then, yes.
So is that one vote, or are we voting on each of those separately?
Depends on your motion, but I don't know that you can vote on them separately. They're contingent upon one another.
I think what we're voting on is whether or not we want to implement a grade band at the southern end only, which would mirror what you just said, a pre-K through 6, new elementary school at Southern Middle School site, and a 7 through 12 grade band change at Southern High School. That is all we're actually doing tonight.
And no change to the grade band at the currently at Swan Meadow.
No, it's not a part of what we're recommending.
So the vote, for clarification, because the reason I asked the 7th through 8th, one vote, and the pre-K through 6th, is this new Broadford school is for the capacity of 813 students.
Correct. Which given the numbers given at the moment, would take us at about 85% capacity, which give us a little bit of room for growth. If that happens, hopefully over the next few years.
But when I look at it as a parent, that's a large number of students for an elementary.
I think Broadford at one time, according to Mrs. Woods, Mr. Keppel, said that they had over 650, almost 670 students at Broadford. And I think they had like 4 kindergartens at about 30 kids apiece.
You're on pre-K, right?
Pardon me?
Pre-K's already there.
No,
It's before pre-K.
Right.
does that include special ed too, that age?
Yes, that would, yeah, and by Garrett County Public School standards, that is a larger elementary school. There's no doubt about that. Compared to state standards, it's a relatively average elementary school. Well, I know it's larger than we've had in the past, but it's comparable to some numbers we had not too long ago.
I agree with that concern, Monica, but I do think basically we already have that size school. We're just adding the 6th grade to what we have.
Correct.
And that's what we have because of different decisions that have been made with the closures in the past and consolidation. So,
and the current, if you were to move the current 7th, 8th graders to the high school, the current numbers, you would have approximately the exact same number that Southern High School had in 2008, which is 925 kids. You would have 930. So,
But
the school size
is
would be
still
the same.
under capacity even.
Yeah,
at 900.
the capacity is 1250. Actually, they say 1400, but 1250 is a better number. but you're still way under capacity. Way under.
I think it is important to note too, at the proposed elementary school plan, that the grade levels have kind of like their own communities, so that it won't feel like a big school. It'll feel like for those students, it'll feel like a small community school.
I think in your schematic, that's one of my favorite things that she did. I love the neighborhoods, and I do agree. They're pods now, but you've got them more as a neighborhood, and I love that.
More questions? Do you have more, Monica? Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions by board members? Okay. We'll take a motion, and please state the motion the way you want it to be be read. It's very important that you state it exactly the way you want it. And we'll see if there's a second, and then we'll see if there's any discussion on that motion. And if not, we'll take a vote. So is there a motion? For those of you that may not have heard, Mr. Van Sickle is writing his motion down so he can specifically say it the way he wants it to read.
Thanks, Jason.
Very important. So.
Yeah, that's got to be worded the way he wants it. Okay.
See what everyone else thinks. I'd like to make a motion that we move towards grade band realignment on the southern end as follows: pre-K through 6 elementary school, 7 through 12 high school.
Karen, do you think you have that? Obviously, you can get it off the recording, but you want to repeat it one more time?
So where the motion is to move toward a grade band realignment on the southern end of Garrett County as follows: pre-K through 6 in the elementary school, 7 through 12 in the high school.
Okay, you've heard the motion by Mr. Van Sickle. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Second by Mr. Gladfeldy. We now have a discussion on the motion. Are there any questions or discussions about the motion that's presented? Council advises me that we may want to put an amendment in that motion which clearly clarifies that Swan Meadow is not a part of this this grade band change.
It's already K through 8.
Pardon me?
It's already K through 8.
The way the wording, I do think it would be better motion-wise if we actually say Southern Middle, Southern High, and then that can be determined which schools it is based on how you need to move the 6th grade and that kind of thing. That would be my thought. So maybe let's procedurally, you want to withdraw the motion?
Yes, I think that procedurally that might be the easiest thing
Yes,
to do.
I can withdraw my motion.
Okay, the motion has been withdrawn.
Okay.
Is there a new motion to be made?
I'll withdraw
I will
the
make,
second.
what? You withdraw the second. That is fully off the table. Good. I will make a motion that Southern Middle School facility be modernized to become pre-kindergarten to 6th grade. Southern High School become 7 to 12. And eventually Broadford Elementary will be demolished. And a feasibility study be conducted at Crellin to address the addition of pre-K and 6th grade students.
You want to add the project manager too?
And that a project manager be hired to complete the project.
Right. Because it's a complicated, there's a lot of moving parts in this. Okay. I can second that.
Okay. I make a motion. Southern Middle School be modernized to become a pre-kindergarten to 6th grade facility. Southern High School become a 7th to 12th grade facility. Broadford Elementary School will eventually be demolished. A feasibility study will be conducted at Crellin to address the addition of pre-K and 6th grade students, and a project manager will be hired to oversee this project.
Karen?
Okay. Very deep, good detail. I like it.
Okay, you have heard the new motion, which I won't repeat. Is there a second?
Yeah, I can second that.
Seconded by Mr. Gladfeldy. Now, we can have discussion on the new motion if there is any discussion to be had.
I just have a question about the motion. So the motion actually carries that Crellin will have a feasibility study to only look at pre-K and 6th grade. Are we not looking at anything else?
We would be.
But the
We
motion
would be,
says
well, right, I know, I didn't write the motion. We would be looking at whether we keep where the 4th and 5th grade is now, whether we would, there'd be a lot
So,
more involved than just that.
Yeah, the intent of the motion is to include whatever is needed
Modernization of
to.
the school. Modernization
Yeah.
of the school.
So if you would like to make an amendment, that would be okay.
Sorry, I would like to make an amendment to the motion, Mr. President, and amend that motion for the utilization study of Crellin Elementary School to be all-inclusive, not just segmented out to adding classrooms for pre-K and
All-inclusive
6th grade.
modernization of the school.
Correct, yes.
I have to accept that.
Yeah, look at various options. Yeah. I'll second the amendment. Or
Second.
did you already do that?
You're gonna second the amendment?
Yeah, well, you accept the amendment, then I'll second the whole
We'll
thing.
have to vote on the amendment first.
You have to vote on the amendment.
Well, we have to vote on the
Parliamentary
amendment.
procedure, you have to vote on the amendment first.
The amendment. Could you repeat what you said?
An all-inclusive modernization, feasibility study for an all-inclusive modernization of Crellin Elementary.
So we would strike the feasibility at Crellin to address the addition of pre-K and sixth grade students, and say a feasibility study to address the modernization of the utilization of Crellin Elementary.
And we'll need to vote, first of all, on the amendment,
Correct.
and then we will vote on the, you want to read the amendment back, Karen, to make sure, and then we'll take a vote on that? Yeah, feasibility study for an all-inclusive modernization. Correct, yes. Okay, that's the amendment to the motion. Those in favor of the amendment as stated, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay? Nay. Okay, is it 3-1 vote in favor of the amendment? Okay, now,
May I give a comment?
sure.
Okay. Mr. Wolf, you did a wonderful job on the presentation, and I think it's wonderful, and you really have my support. But the problem, or not problem, what concerns me is the state rated capacity. Because last month I questioned you about this number compared to the enrollment, the state capacity we have now at Broadford, with how it is increased. And I asked you where they came from, and you said that was a number that you was given. So that is where you came with a number. But I support putting special ed and STARS, having them in the same building, keeping all sixth graders at their elementary home school. When it comes to putting 7th and 8th at the Southern High, I do support that. It makes our utilization come up at Southern High to keep the school open. And you give how you can keep it separated, the 7th from the 8th. So again, I do support the project, but the reason I was against it, what concerns me is a new state rated capacity. And I understand it was explained we would have our special ed students there, sixth grade would remain there, but to me, when I've heard declining enrollment, our buildings are underutilized, this is the funding factor. I look at, we're closing a school to make our budget shrink, but yet we're making the school bigger for the enrollment that we have. So that is, just so you understand, that's why I voted against it. I love the project, and I think it's wonderful. You have worked from A to Z on it. You had so much information on there, and I enjoyed reading it. I learned a lot, but it's just the enrollment numbers. So I wanted everyone to know why I voted against it. Thank you.
Okay, Karen, I need you to read, you will.
You can clarify the full
Yeah, I wanna
motion
clarify
that
the
we
motion
before we have
first.
more discussion. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Right. Karen, I need you to read the motion back with the amendment that was incorporated.
She might need a mic.
Do you want me to help you? Well, I've got some stuff here from Brandon has it written things as well. Oh, is that what happened? Oh, has it? Okay. This is what she's having trouble, I think, with her board docs. What we have down, I think, is I make a motion to modernize Southern Middle School to become a pre-K through 6, to modernize Southern High School to become a 7 through 12, and to eventually demolish Broadford Elementary, to conduct a feasibility study to address the all-inclusive modernization of Crellin Elementary School, and to hire a project manager to complete these projects.
That is the motion.
Good, thank you, Brandon.
Just to, I wanted to address,
Sure.
And Monica, I get what you're saying with the increase in numbers, but the way that we're decreasing the overall kind of numbers, if you're looking at that, is it's basically a closure of the middle school. So we're taking that out, And that really is the way that we're reducing that footprint in that way. So it is accomplishing that, and then we're still having that space to work at what it will be the new Broadford, whatever we call it, elementary school.
Any other comments before we take the vote?
The footprint's really shrunk on that complex by doing this.
Any other comments? Okay, I'll read the motion, we'll take a vote. A motion has been made to modernize Southern Middle School to become pre-K to 6, to modernize Southern High School to become a 7 through 12, and to eventually demolish Broadford Elementary, to conduct a feasibility study to address the all-inclusive modernization of Crellin Elementary School, and to hire a project manager to complete these projects. That is the motion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Okay.
And it is a 3-to-1 vote to accomplish those.
Thank you
those things.
very, very much.
And thank you to Superintendent David, Rich.
Thank you.
Allison's not here, I know, and everybody who's had a part. I know all of you,
Thank you.
Dr. Mangus, all of you, Mr. Hummel, all of you, Mr. Edwards, all of you have been very, very instrumental in doing this, and we've not taken it lightly. We've worked on this for a long time. We've looked at a lot of alternatives, and the board feels this is the best alternative. So thank you so
It
much.
absolutely was a team effort.
And now we'll look at how hard this is going to be financially as we look at our CIP. Because even though it sounds great, you got to find a way to pay for it.
David, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dave.
Absolutely. Do we clap after these things, or is that?
We can sigh. Okay, we're going to move on to the CIP FY 2024 Capital Improvement Plan. It's a draft. Again, this is a draft. It's a work in progress as we look forward to the next 5 years, trying to look at what our footprint and what our school system should look like after making this decision. What do we look like going forward? So, Mr. Wazlowski, I'll let you do that, and the board, I would encourage you, since this is a draft, if you have questions, certainly raise those questions as you feel free.
Yeah. There's a lot of redundancies that we've already kind of talked about in this document. I provided first what's going on currently in 23. We're on schedule for the Accolades and Northern submission to begin those projects in the spring. Now that the project's approved, we'll get going on the A&E part of it. The Northern Security Vestibule is complete, and then we'll pave the parking lot at Northern next summer, or this coming summer. As we go through 24, we talked about where we are with the A&E and the limited renovation. I don't know if the superintendent shared with you, but we did receive the $8,380,000 for the air conditioning at Southern High School. That has been approved by the state IAC Healthy School Fund, so we did receive that. The Northern Wastewater Treatment Plant, we'll have to work to replace that system with the county. We have some ADA upgrades to do Yockelade's Playground. I know the question will be that we're going to move the special ed center out of there, but it's still out of compliance, so it's still something that we should do as part of just having the playground back there. And then we'll start, as part of this decision now, looking at this building, at Dennett Road, and then the feasibility and portals that were talked about. And we kind of start moving into the project. Remember, these are just cost estimates. I don't have the crystal ball, but I just kind of ballpark some things on something that Grimm and Parker gave us. So I kind of have the project now at $51,239,616. And I kind of gave you a breakdown on how I got to those numbers as the project. Again, when we talked to the IAC about this funding and this project, will it be over 2 fiscal years? Will it be over 3 fiscal years? We'll have cash flow discussions on how that kind of payment's going to kind of work with them. Right now, we can now bill directly, like we're doing with Grantsville, to the IAC, so we don't have to kind of pay and then ask them for reimbursement. So that they'll kind of tell us probably how that's going to work. But remember, we'll have to pay the contractors as we go. So Ms. Schweitzer and I have had a lot of discussions on what that's going to look like. So that's something that we'll have to go through. And then based on some footprint discussions, the accident roof needs to be replaced. Route 40, that roof needs some repairs, and that'll be our last without air conditioning that we'll have a conversation with. And that is also the last year of Healthy Schools funding, FY25. So if discussion we have, we would pursue that same route to put air conditioning in that building. And as we go out farther, there's just some other projects with the Hickory roof, just redoing that, and then we'll have some discussions, and the next one is with Friendsville in terms of the building rating and the systems, and looking at a full renovation as part of down the road, and eventually to the Southern High roof. Okay. I also provided a breakdown on the back page of what Southern High's, again, limited renovation would be, just based on Grimmon Parker's number and some other things. I wanted to say that the Hickory pool renovation, with discussions with the superintendent and the staff at Hickory, I think there's going to be a partnership to use the CARC as opposed to that pool as going forward, and that just kind of expands their program because of the they get the usage with the time of year, and there was some concerns about finding lifeguards and some different things that he just kind of thought it would be better to kind of go form that partnership and take the kids to the CARC. Okay, so that's kind of quickly. But again, there was some redundancies with a lot of the conversation tonight. So I'll take any questions on what I prepared here. Jason?
Not necessarily a question for you, but a comment for the board and the superintendent. I think before we can look at CIP, we need to probably come up with a strategic plan as far as what we're going to do with all of our footprint, because otherwise there's no need to continue to put money into schools that, whatever the pleasure of the board is, but I think that needs to be determined before we vote on CIP. So that was just my recommendation to the board and the superintendent.
Right, and thank you. I do agree that we have other footprint issues in the entire school system that we have brought to your attention, but I do welcome further discussion, analysis, and planning in all of the other facilities that we need to consider. So thank you.
Point, I think the CIP it pretty much highlights that the project, some of these projects are contingent upon future considerations, and so the public needs to understand that it's in the CIP, but it doesn't necessarily mean they'll go through with it. Depends on what happens with the strategic plan. But I think it's important to get the CIP approved by next month so that we can get it to the state and get it to the...
I don't disagree, but I also don't want to continue just to look at a CIP on a yearly basis, right? So if we look at a 5-year plan, it allows Rich and his group to kind of plan out a little bit better and figure out what projects need to come to the forefront rather than just trying to get it done in order to pass it to the county.
So, okay. Well,
I don't disagree with our timeline. I don't disagree with your timeline. I'm just saying we need to start thinking a little bit further down the road.
So I guess the process will be make comments in the next 2 weeks and then see how it can be amended.
Yeah, the timeline, we are stuck to a timeline because we need to get our CIP to the commissioners for local consideration, and we need to get the IAC by no later than, I think you told us, mid-November.
Yeah, I think with that timeline, it's going to be hard to make some of those full things for this year's CIP, but I do think that's an important thing, and perhaps what you could do, not necessarily on the CIP, but a presentation of some of the different options that we would have based on different considerations that your team is considering, based on keeping things as they are, based on changing in some way, or a variety of ways.
Sure.
This year was a little bit different because of the project that we just voted on, but can we start moving CIP up earlier in the year so we can think more strategically about it rather than trying to just to get it done right before it needs to be presented to the county?
Yeah. Allison, well, we're really working with, you have to have a 10-year pipeline now with the IAC. So we're having around, so they're our buildings are being evaluated through the new state assessment. So they're kind of working with us on our 10-year pipeline. So some of this comes from that pipeline. But yes, this big project was kind of our hinge pin of,
Sure.
to the next discussion, to the next, and then, funding and all those things. So now that the decision was tonight, thank you for, now this will really start to shape some things, as we go forward. That's kind of why we titled them, for future discussion on the footprint. But a good solid strategic plan would be,
So would it be probable to be able to have it July next year? That way we have plenty of time to kind of plan a little
Yeah.
bit, see what direction we want to go
Yeah.
in.
yep. We normally do July.
Yeah,
and then
and understand this project kind of delayed everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Any other questions? Again, it's a first read draft. Yes, Monica?
When I read it, you have, just so I understand what you mean, it's not till the fiscal year 24. Dennett Road existing condition survey and schematic design. What would that be on?
That would be for Second Street Central Office, potentially moving to this building.
Okay. And then, like you said, and it does say on here, estimated project cost. But when there's a TBD, to be determined, I only see it in the fiscal year 25. It says Crellin School A&E placeholder dependent upon feasibility study. So you just didn't put an estimated cost because of what the feasibility study would show what needs to be done? Is that why?
Correct. Until we do the study, we're not sure what the cost would be. Therefore, to be determined what the A&E would be.
Not knowing what the project,
Exactly. Not knowing what the project scope would be.
okay,
And once that's defined, then we'll update that.
okay. Seen something else on here. Okay, underneath that, in the fiscal year 24, install portables at Broadford. It has 2 in parentheses, see below. So what am I looking at below?
On the last page, it's footnote 2, the addition of portables at Broadford to accommodate 6th grade will be determined through an enrollment analysis at the end of this school year.
Okay,
Okay, I think we had said that before.
so that goes back what Ms. Baker said, depending on, we'll see,
Right.
The enrollment.
All
But
right,
you
and
do
then-
have,
and remember, Mr. Glotfeld, they asked us to
Yeah.
also consider
yeah.
splitting those portables, some at Yawk Glades, potentially some at Broadford.
So you have an estimated cost, $650,000. Is that for one or is that for two?
That's a classroom of 4, like a 4,
Okay, 1 unit with 4 classes in it?
Yeah.
Kind of?
yeah.
Okay,
And I think there was a request, at least in some discussions, that we try to do, if we can, do a bathroom in those, just for more logistical reasons, to try to incorporate a restroom if possible.
okay.
Yeah.
So this is gonna come back to us, or when are we supposed to do the vote on it? We didn't have it as an action item tonight, correct? So what,
We'll vote on the CIP at the October meeting, the October 8th meeting.
and that'll be enough time for you to get it to local government and to the IAC? Or did you need it, let's vote on it at our, audit next week?
I'm gonna need, we'll do a submission, the October boarding will be okay for the submission.
Okay,
It's the 11th, then there'll be a date that it's November, where it has a letter of support would then come from the local government. And the project we've been getting the local support on right now is for the renovation at the high school. There's no letter of support needed for the A&E portion of the larger project,
Right.
but we'll need that. So once it's adopted by the board, then that discussion can happen.
So roughly on the 11th, if we vote
Okay.
in favor of the CIP, we're going to have 3 to 4 weeks to get that letter of submission from the county.
It's usually
which
right around.
I would think would come much quicker than
Okay,
that.
yeah.
Hopefully it will.
Yeah.
I was just making sure that we had enough time. for
Yeah, I think so.
when he
Yeah, we should
needed
have
it.
plenty of time.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I think she's still there.
Guess that's it.
See ya.
I thought there was
Okay.
something else.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Wizlowski.
thank you.
We'll look forward to seeing you next month. We now have FY 2024, I'm sorry, the Social Studies Curriculum in Elementary presentation. I'm sorry that we took you so long. Yep.
Good evening. Hello.
Good evening.
I am bringing to you this evening a table that I'm going to tip. The social studies that we have piloted this summer for elementary school. It has been since 2005 since we've updated this, so I think it's probably time for us to consider that. This will be for kindergarten through 5th grade. It was piloted in summer school and ongoing up until this point by our lead teachers and some of our other teachers in the classroom. This is being purchased through the Maryland Leads Grant, and it will be on display at Northern Middle and the Oakland Ruth Enlow Library until the next board meeting or shortly before so that we can gather the comments. We will be sending out a social studies blast tomorrow through our social media, so that parents can access it and comment on it that way as well, and they can access the online link to look at it if they are unable to make it to the 2 sites where we'll be putting the samples. So with this product, you will see that it is updated. My clicker's not working.
It doesn't, you have to, yeah.
Oh no, my clicker is Chad. It's my imaginary one. Yes. In 2020, the state updated the framework, which changed some of the standards and the alignment that we use in social studies. This particular product is aligned to that. It allows us to integrate the ELA standards through discipline literacy, and it hits all of the pillars that you see there for social studies. It does afford us an opportunity to practice being good citizens, and this is an example of some of the activities that they could be doing in the classroom. We're looking at always including student collaboration, providing opportunities for students to speak, listen, and learn to debate, and learn to express themselves in respectful agreement or disagreement, validate peers, and constructively challenge opposing viewpoints. There's always an essential question that students are asked to consider, so it allows the sharing of multiple voices. It includes chapter openers, which are video-based on that big question, uses the inquiry process with focus questions like you had seen with the document-based question project that we purchased as a supplemental to support our social studies program. And it allows them to learn about people, cultures, language, and abilities, as well as socioeconomic backgrounds different than their own. It's engaging, impactful, and it has explicit instruction. It equips them to be critical thinkers. It includes digital media, interactive videos, and songs. Some of the teachers are really excited about the addition of the songs that they'll get to use with their students. And it does support vocabulary development as well as the major concepts that are produced in those chapters. The reason we are purchasing it through the Maryland Leads Grant is because of the literacy component. We know that our vocabulary, as I'm looking at the iReady results coming back already, is an area of concern and deficit. This is an excellent way to build vocabulary. Vocabulary is built through the content area and the use thereof. It also addresses the need to build the background knowledge, and it has a heavy emphasis on writing in the content area, which will support our students in the application of their reading skills through writing. We do have print and digital resources. It is aligned to the Realize platform, which is what the teachers are already accustomed to because we have that in math for their programs there. And it does work directly with Schoology. Of course, you'll see it covers different dimensions. We're looking at developing questions and planning inquiries, applying disciplinary tools like civics, economics, geography, and history, and then evaluating sources and using evidence to evaluate those sources instead of just taking the author's word for it. It also works on communicating conclusions and taking informed action, just like we should be as good citizens, looking at what the problem is, looking at a worldwide problem, and how can we apply it to our own community and then make an improvement here. Of course, like all programs, it does offer as assessment. We have print and digital as well as performance-based, and of course, we'll be able to do some data analysis with this program. So, are there any questions for me? I have samples if anyone would like to see them. There's 2 bags of them, but this will be brought back to you at the next board meeting for consideration for approval. 2005. Just a couple years of history.
Make that an action item next time.
All right.
Again,
thank you
sorry
very
to make you
much.
wait 2 hours past your presentation time, but I'm sure you knew that was coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. Okay, let's move on to student member update.
So I don't have too much, but we did just start the 2022-2023 school year, and I talked to a number of students, and everyone is settling in and adjusting to the new year. With GCASC, the officers met at Perkins on Thursday, August 11th, and we discussed future plans for upcoming workshops and meetings. And we also have a new advisor, Miss Taylor from Accolades. So she's our new advisor for GCSC. And then the officers are meeting once a month, and we will be meeting next Monday, September 26th, virtually at 6 p.m. There is a MABE annual conference at the Westin in Annapolis from October 6th through the 8th. And then local student councils, the Southern High Student Council has scheduled a blood drive on October 24th from 9 to 2, and is currently working on future fundraisers and plans such as Ram Rumbles and Spirit Weeks. Monday, September 12th, Southern held a 9/11 memorial ceremony, and Northern had their fall homecoming this past Saturday, which seemed to have a good turnout and was enjoyed by many. And then Southern's fall homecoming is scheduled for October 29th. That's all I have right now.
Questions for Alexis? Anyone have any questions? Yes.
What was you saying about the blood drive? They already held the blood drive? No, or it's going to be held?
Nope, it's going to be held October 24th.
Okay, and where is that going to be at?
We usually do it in the auxiliary gym.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm looking forward to the student panel at the MABE conference. It's going to be in a main general session instead of one of the other breakout sessions. So everybody will get to see it. But that should be a good addition to that program. So
Definitely, yeah.
you're not on that panel, are you?
No, I want to, but it depends on if I can fit it in my schedule right now.
Yeah, it should be good.
Thank you, Alexis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board member updates? Any updates? Dr. Paul? Yes, Jason.
I attended the 150th celebration and saw the central offices as well as the Board of Education's table with the event. Appreciate you guys taking time out of your Saturday to man that. I think it was a great event. A lot of people attended.
Great event.
It was a great event. I have to thank Dr. Wildison again for pinch hitting for another person, and I talked to a number of people, and it was really well attended. I thought it was great, the 150. And I'll just give a real quick update because we've opened school since the last board meeting, and so far, I guess I should knock on plastic. We've had a very nice opening. I think everyone is very happy to be back. It was a relatively long summer, and this is our most normal school year for many. And it's been, I think, a wonderful, successful opening. I'm absolutely thrilled to see the kids again, and I think they're very happy to be back as well. So I think all in all, we've had an excellent first 10 days.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
He was quick.
Yes, Mr. Woods is going to give an update first. I did attend the Garrett County Public Schools Foundation meeting. We'll report to you that the foundation is in great shape. They are going to do mini grants again this year, $250 mini grants. So I would encourage everybody to do that. Last year they give out 10 mini grants. So certainly encourage all teachers to do that and utilize that money. Other than that, I think there's going to be a little bit of a raise in the amount of interest that they get. At least that's what we were told. Maybe the interest level will go up a little bit. But the foundation is doing great at the moment. So hopefully it will continue to make some money to spend on kids in Garrett County. Now, with that, who made the motion?
I would like to make a motion, we adjourn.
Was it Larry or Mo? Okay. Motion by Jason, second by Rodney. At 9:14, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.